Bonsoir et bienvenue à notre première séance du Conseil de l'Arrondissement pour 2023. Merci beaucoup à tous et à toutes d'être avec nous ce soir. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for being here for the first regular council sitting of 2020. We're having some technical difficulties. There we go. Thank you very much for being here. On est accompagné encore ce soir avec de nos services, les membres de l'équipe, de l'administration aussi, les membres du Conseil, Madame Catherine Clément-Talbot.
Bonsoir.
Madame Louise Leroux.
Bonsoir, good evening.
Monsieur Benoît Langevin.
Bonsoir à tous.
Et Monsieur Shahed Tarakjan.
Bonsoir, good evening.
Avant qu'on commence avec la période des questions, on va procéder avec ma rubrique quelques informations. Le commandant n'est pas avec nous ce soir. The commander is not with us this evening. Should you have any questions for the SPVM, si vous avez des questions pour l'SPVM, vous pouvez les transmettre à nous, le Conseil, à moi, et ça va nous faire plaisir de faire parvenir les questions au commandant pour les réponses en temps et lieu. So if you have any questions for the SPVM, he was unable to be with us this evening. Please feel free to forward those questions to us here at Council, to myself as well, and we will be happy to send that to them for an appropriate answer in due time. Pour marquer le coup d'envoi de l'année 2023, nos équipes des différents services ont tout mis en œuvre pour vous offrir un full d'activités, d'événements et d'occasions pour vous divertir, vous éduquer et socialiser. Tout ça au cours des prochains mois et à quelques pas de la maison. So, to start off the year 2023, our teams in every service have done an incredible job in providing an array of activities for sure that you can find available on our website that will engage you to socialize and participate in regular community life, and we hope you take advantage of it. À cet effet, je profite de l'occasion pour vous annoncer que la nouvelle programmation hiver-printemps de la culture et des activités en bibliothèque est maintenant lancée. Je vous invite d'ailleurs à consulter la version papier dans tous nos bâtiments municipaux que vous voyez ici en avant. La version virtuelle est également en ligne sur notre site web. We are very, very happy to have announced and launched our Winter-Spring Cultural Program. The books are available in our public buildings, but can also be downloaded and viewed on our website. And please take advantage of that as we have many, many incredible activities planned. Monsieur Jean-François Deliep, merci à vous et votre service pour un travail extraordinaire dans la planification. C'est pas juste imprimer un document qui fait la différence, c'est la participation, la programmation, les ententes qu'on fait avec tout le monde. Madame Cloutier, avec le service de communication, avec l'équipe, bravo, c'est un exemplaire très intéressant et exceptionnel. L'Orchestre métropolitain lance le bal de la programmation culturelle avec son grand retour chez nous à Pierrefonds-Roxboro. Et ce premier événement du calendrier a lieu le jeudi 26 janvier à 19h30 à l'église Sainte-Suzanne. Et vous pouvez réserver vos billets pour la saison culturelle dès maintenant sur notre billetterie en ligne et par téléphone en composant le numéro indiqué sur le site web, le 514-702-1812. Et du côté de nos deux bibliothèques, nous vous offrons plus d'une centaine d'activités entièrement gratuites qui seront plaire à tous les âges, tous les groupes d'âge. Heures de compte, jeux libres, jeux de société, conférences, etc. Et vous pouvez, comme j'ai dit, consulter le site web pour avoir toutes ces informations. So our cultural programming begins with the Metropolitan Orchestra, which will take place in church in St. Suzanne Church on the 26th of January at 7:30. You can always get your tickets by going to our ticket outlet on the website, but you can also call the number, as I mentioned, 514-702-1812. All that information is available on our website. Please take advantage of it. And in terms of our two libraries, we also have, as we mentioned last programming season, over 100 different programs and activities planned. free activities. Please take advantage to at least view the documentation, go on our website, and participate in all these activities, or most of them, or some of them. There are activities for all ages. And we welcome you, Madame Catherine Talbot. Vous avez quelque chose à ajouter au niveau de la culture?
Bien sûr. Est-ce qu'on m'entend? Non?
Parfait.
Oh, c'est bien. Alors, bonsoir. Bonne année. Good evening. Happy New Year. C'est bon. D'accord. Je n'avais pas ouvert les deux. Alors, je suis très contente de vous voir nombreux. Je m'occupe ici de la culture, de d'autres choses aussi, mais de la culture. Et la programmation des concerts, la programmation des spectacles qui sont donnés au centre culturel. Entre autres, en décembre, il y avait une présentation sur les Beatles, une contrebasse, une batterie, et contrebasse, batterie et un piano. So a piano, contrebass is the big violin, battery, drums. It was really excellent. So I do encourage you to call at our services and get the tickets. There's a lot of work that is being done. When there's a presentation at the Centre Culturel, then they arrange it as if it was a little cafe-like. Little tables, little tablecloths, and you can even have chips and a drink, or a Coca-Cola, or a juice. So, je crois que quand vous avez un arrondissement qui s'occupe de vous autant que ça du point de vue culturel, s'il vous plaît, j'aime vous voir au concert. Maintenant, il y a probablement des gens qui, dans la salle, vont assister au concert de l'Orchestre métropolitain. Alors moi, je n'y serai pas, parce que j'ai eu un cadeau. I had a gift, and the gift was done in Ville-Saint-Laurent, and it's the day before. So I will not be on the 26th at the concert. But don't think that I'm not attending, but I just wanted to say it to you. But please, please, at Sainte-Suzanne, it's beautiful. It's a quality. Also, we have choirs that have concerts and that can promote their program with us. So on this Friday, 7:30, Centre Culturel de Pierrefonds, a beautiful, the name of Folie or Folie, I'm sorry, I don't have the name exactly, but this, at 7:30, please, it's a choir, music from New Orleans, things from Quebec, and a choir is, un chœur, c'est céleste. Alors, faites un petit tour au ciel, puis s'il vous plaît, fréquentez nos lieux. On le fait pour vous, et je vous remercie de m'avoir écouté, et merci, Monsieur le maire.
Madame Talbot, merci beaucoup. Le message, mesdames et messieurs, c'est de participer en grand nombre. C'est ça le message, essentiellement. C'est parce que, comme j'ai dit à M. Duliep et l'équipe, on travaille très fort pour préparer ces présentations. Il y a beaucoup de travail. On commence déjà là, pour la programmation de l'été et l'automne. Et je vous encourage sincèrement d'aller participer à ces événements-là et ces activités-là. C'est pour vous, dans le fond. Et on participe le temps qu'on a parce qu'on est quand même partout, comme Mme Talbot a dit, mais on va faire le plus possible de vous voir à ces événements-là et de les critiquer aussi. Si vous voyez quelque chose qui ne marche pas bien ou quelque chose que vous voulez voir dans l'arrondissement, s'il vous plaît, transmettre cette information à nous. Là, ça va nous faire plaisir de travailler avec l'équipe pour faire le plus possible pour accueillir d'autres présentations à l'arrondissement. So again, the message very, very briefly is to participate in these events, and we do them for you. If you see of any that somehow you can critique, something that you would like to see in the borough that you don't see or haven't seen, please give us that information. It'll be our pleasure to work with our teams to make that happen locally for you and for our community. La nouveauté, comme on avait annoncé sur le site web et les médias sociaux, offre de cours de groupe et de conditionnement physique par l'arrondissement en partenariat avec le YMCA. Parlant de nouveautés, comme j'ai dit, je suis particulièrement heureux. et fier de la nouvelle offre de services développée pour toute la population par la Division des sports et loisirs de Pierrefonds-Roxboro et encourager les petits et grands à vivre une vie active et saine est l'une de nos missions. Vous voyez, avant, on faisait affaire avec les organismes individuellement pour donner des services à ce niveau à la population. Et ça fait depuis un mois, M. Duliep, à peu près, on a réussi une entente avec le YMCA pour nous donner une offre de service clé en main, un service pour tous dans l'arrondissement, et on est très, très content de voir que ça va se faire au Centre communautaire de l'Ouest. Au Centre de l'Ouest, c'est sur Meloche, juste pour ceux et celles qui ne savent pas, c'est l'école Saint-Anthony, une partie de Saint-Anthony. Le Centre communautaire Jerry Robertson et l'école PCHS, ici en face. Plusieurs activités sont planifiées. J'ai la liste ici, mais je vous encourage d'aller sur le site web, trouver l'information. Again, we have many different types of fitness activities planned for the population, and this is something new, an agreement that we have with the YMCA, where once upon a time we had some of these, not all, but some of these types of activities offered by individual organizations throughout our territory. This year, successfully with Mr. Duliep and his team, we were able to have an agreement with the YMCA to be able to provide a multitude of activities for the public that will be taking place at our community center in the west, which is in the St. Anthony School attached to it, at our Jerry Robertson Center, corner Sunnybrook and Gouin, and of course the hub, PCHS, which is just facing our City Hall here. Je remercie encore Mme Cloutier et son équipe de communication pour un travail extraordinaire pour publiciser cet événement-là ou ces événements. Vous savez, ça commence avec une idée. Les services commencent de formaliser l'idée pour faire des ententes, donner l'offre de service, approuvé par le Conseil, et par la suite, les services des coms fait un travail, comme j'ai dit souvent, exceptionnel pour transmettre l'information à la population. Je vous encourage encore d'aller sur le site web et voir qu'est-ce qui se passe à ce niveau. J'ai quelques items qui restent, mais on va prendre le temps nécessaire parce que ça nous manque depuis les fêtes de vous voir. Et les gens qui nous regardent aussi sur le web diffusion, merci d'être là avec nous. Les patinoires extérieures. Très brièvement, vous savez que les patinoires sont ouvertes maintenant dans l'arrondissement. Je me souviens, à l'époque, quand j'avais commencé ma carrière, il y a 35 ans, on gérait les patinoires extérieures, puis on sait qu'au mois de novembre, à la fin novembre, n'est-ce pas, M. Baudouin, à la fin novembre, on commençait de préparer la patinoire. Et presque 100% du temps, on avait les patinoires ouvertes avant les fêtes. Et là, avec la fluctuation de température, c'est absolument difficile ou presque impossible d'avoir les patinoires ouvertes avant les fêtes. Mais on a réussi, après la tempête, de préparer. Bravo à l'équipe des travaux publics pour ce travail. On a 16 surfaces glacées dans l'arrondissement. Il faut revoir, par contre, ce service, comment ça va fonctionner pour les années à venir avec le climat, changement de température, etc. Parce qu'en général, on avait 2 mois à peu près de patinage extérieur, mais ce n'est pas le cas maintenant. On verra qu'est-ce qu'on va faire dans le futur. So very briefly, the outdoor skating rinks, 16 of them are open throughout the territory. Monsieur Baudouin and our public works team have done an exceptional job once again. Where once upon a time we used to work on these rinks end of November, as I mentioned, in French, and have them ready for the holidays almost all the time. And now it's been a number of years with many different reasons, climate change being one of them, that the rinks are unfortunately, if we're successful to have them just after the holidays, we're lucky. And in this case, they are now all open. Again, not knowing what the future is with the temperature and the rain and the freezing rain and the snow wreaking havoc in our community in terms of that infrastructure. We will do our best to continue that. Le message encore, c'est de participer en grand nombre. J'ai passé à quelques reprises voir les patinoires aujourd'hui. Même pendant le jour, il y avait beaucoup de gens qui les utilisaient. En plus, les parcs nature, peut-être, M. Langevin, vous pouvez parler des parcs nature après, au niveau de stationnement, etc., là, de respecter les consignes. Monsieur Tarakjan, vous avez un commentaire ou quelques commentaires concernant les activités de sport?
Oui, merci, Monsieur le maire. Je profite de cette occasion pour vous souhaiter une année de santé, d'amour, de bonheur et de paix et de succès. Quel début de l'année! J'aimerais souligner et féliciter les joueurs de l'équipe nationale junior masculin de hockey du Canada. Ils ont remporté, comme vous connaissez, l'or et pour la deuxième année. Quel but excitant en prolongation. You may have already heard in the news related to the association, there are some changes that are coming up. And I think it's for the better for the sport of hockey and for all young children that are going up through the system. So I'm waiting, like you guys, for a great result. Je sais que c'est un événement mondial. The event was large for Team Canada, but I would also like to congratulate our Pierrefonds-Roxboro team. They hosted an incredible tournament under very difficult circumstances, and they pulled it off. There was 120 teams altogether. So I applaud Manon Côté and her team, the executives, and all the volunteers. It was a fantastic event. If I may add one more thing, I think as a population in our community, the way we are, we're so together in that respect that we have a lot of sport activities for children. On a beaucoup des équipes, on a beaucoup des événements. Puis j'aimerais qu'on encourage les adultes, les parents de sortir, de venir voir tous les tournois qu'on a. We have a lot of tournaments. We offer so much here at Pierrefonds. Take advantage of it, please. Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Monsieur Tarakjan, merci beaucoup. Le message encore, mesdames et messieurs, c'est si vous avez le temps libre à donner, faire du bénévolat, on vous encourage de faire le bénévolat parce que dans les associations, en général, c'est les mêmes personnes qui s'impliquent un peu partout. Soit on n'a pas le temps, soit on a des jeunes enfants à la maison, on ne peut pas. Mais si vous avez le temps, quelques moments de participer comme bénévole dans ces organismes-là, M. Tarakjan a parlé de Mme Manon Côté. Elle est là depuis des décennies, dans le fond, que je connaissais dans une ancienne vie, puis elle est encore là. Puis elle est encore là avec ces mêmes bénévoles qui ont géré le tournoi à Pierrefonds la semaine dernière, avec succès. C'était incroyable, il y avait une centaine d'équipes de partout qui venaient participer, compétitionner à Pierrefonds. So if you have time, folks, the message is if you haven't volunteered or if you don't volunteer, please do your best to do that when you can. An hour here, an hour there can change many lives, particularly our youth in our community. Monsieur Langevin.
Bien, en fait, moi, c'est plus un message que j'avais envie d'envoyer à la population. On a encore des enjeux de stationnement dans les grands parcs, spécialement dans le Cap-Saint-Jacques, pour faire du pont avec les activités hivernales. On a beaucoup de gens qui vont sur la rue Pilon, Jordi-Bonnet, qui essaient de justement soit sauver le frais que ça coûte d'aller au Grand Parc. La réalité, c'est que le Grand Parc a plusieurs espaces de stationnement. Donc, je comprends des fois qu'on veut essayer de trouver l'endroit le plus proche. Mais dans le contexte où on a toujours des enjeux de non-respect de la signalisation dans ces artères-là, ces rues qui sont résidentielles, ces rues où il y a une cohabitation à avoir avec des étudiants, comme je peux penser à aujourd'hui. Aujourd'hui, on avait une super belle journée ensoleillée. On est un lundi, mais lundi veut aussi dire retour aux classes. Donc, des gens qui sont sur la rue Pilon, des gens qui sont sur la rue Jordi-Bonnet, ça fait pas des cocktails qui sont viables. Donc, c'est sûr que cette information-là a été transférée au SPVM, puis qu'il va y avoir des mesures de mise en place, un peu comme on le fait durant la période estivale. Mais sincèrement, le message à tous, c'est prenez le temps de prendre le temps de marcher en allant peut-être dans des stationnements un peu plus éloignés. Vous êtes là pour faire du sport, fait que marchez donc au lieu d'aller vous stationner à côté d'une école ou dans une artère où la signalisation vous l'interdit. Merci.
Monsieur Langevin, merci beaucoup. we plan to bring this to Montreal as they manage the Grand Parc. And as we did in the past, for those of you that remember in the summer, when we had spillover effect into the residential areas, creating havoc on these small, quiet residential streets, they were encouraged, luckily, to open up some green space within the park that they used to begin with whenever they'd have filming locations within Cap Saint-Jacques, which now they utilize for spillover in terms of parking, which solved the problem to a certain point. On va communiquer l'information, M. Langevin va communiquer l'information à l'SPVM aussi, pour avoir une présence sur les lieux de temps en temps, surtout pendant les fins de semaine. Et on va vous encourager de stationner, comme M. Langevin a dit, dans les stationnements dédiés pour le Cap Saint-Jacques. Vous savez, on peut faire le débat comme on veut, mais le stationnement payant paye pour les services dans ce parc Cap-Saint-Jacques, comme Bois de Liesse, éventuellement les autres parcs qu'on a, pas les parcs résidentiels, mais je parle les parcs nature, Cheval Blanc, entre autres. Ça veut dire qu'on peut faire le débat si on est pour ou contre le stationnement gratuit, mais le stationnement paye pour quelque chose. Et l'école Charlemagne, et c'est pas le stationnement dédié pour le Cap, on va quand même parler avec les responsables de l'école pour voir si on peut trouver une solution pour laisser les gens stationner dans le stationnement de l'école. C'est pas fait, mais c'est une idée qu'on avait aujourd'hui, surtout avec la problématique qu'on a eue cette fin de semaine. Le PPU Saint-Charles, vous connaissez presque tous la consultation qui est en cours pour le PPU préliminaire. L'arrondissement souhaite vous entendre sur la version préliminaire du programme particulier d'urbanisme du boulevard Saint-Charles, présenté lors d'une soirée publique le 30 novembre 2022. Le document préliminaire peut être consulté en ligne sur notre site Internet. Et à cet effet, participez à la consultation citoyenne en cours en vous exprimant sur les 3 propositions suivantes: la proposition d'aménagement, principe d'aménagement et de redéveloppement, affectation et densité et hauteur des bâtiments. Rendez-vous sur notre site Internet pour accéder à notre plateforme de consultation en ligne Cocorico. Et vous pouvez également soumettre vos commentaires et questions en lien avec le document préliminaire en écrivant à l'adresse ppu-saint-charles@commercialmontréal.ca. Et la date limite, on a prolongé, M. Kennel, n'est-ce pas, la consultation par Internet jusqu'au fin février 2023. Encore, bravo, M. Kennel, l'équipe, pour le travail que vous faites. On voulait donner la chance à tout le monde de s'exprimer dans ce projet très, très, très important dans l'arrondissement qui va changer vraiment la vision pour cette artère-là et peut-être éventuellement dans d'autres secteurs de l'arrondissement. PPU St. Charles is a file that most of you may know already. We held our consultations already, one public one being in November the 30th. The preliminary document is available for consultation on site. This is a time where we ask you once again to participate as a community on 3 themes, particularly on the I'm trying to translate in my head as I have the French text in front of me. The aménagement, which is the development and redevelopment of the area, the density and heights of any buildings or buildings that are to come in that area. And we'd ask you to go and consult the Cocorico platform on our website. You can also send your comments or questions to ppustcharles@montreal.ca. We've extended the consultation period to allow for the most possible amount of residents to participate in this and give us their feedback before a almost final document is proposed to us here at Council for adoption or not. And I thank once again Mr. Kennel and the entire team at Urban Planning for all their hard work that goes on behind the scenes before you eventually see it as a community on our website. Vous travaillez dans les domaines de l'architecture, de l'urbanisme, de l'aménagement du territoire ou de la construction. Votre communauté a besoin de vous pour émettre des recommandations et des commentaires au sujet de l'aménagement du territoire. Le comité consultatif d'urbanisme de l'arrondissement recrute actuellement des membres qui résident ou des résidents de Pierrefonds-Roxboro. We are always looking for citizen representatives in some of these committees, one of them being our consultation urban planning committee, and we ask you to go to the website. If you have any background in urban planning, please go to our website, send us your CV, and we will look at that, and hopefully if those are qualified and want to participate in community life when it comes to urban planning in our borough that Monsieur Langevin presides, it would be our pleasure to welcome you on the team at that level. J'avais juste quelques items à ajouter. J'ai eu quelques commentaires sur mes médias sociaux concernant la piscine intérieure à l'arrondissement. Est-ce que ça va se faire? Combien de temps ça va prendre? Oui, la piscine est en route. Les 4 dernières années, les services ont travaillé sur les plans, etc., pour finaliser le projet avec la Ville de Montréal. Maintenant, on est à l'étape de sortir. La Ville de Montréal va sortir en soumission très, très, très bientôt. On espère de faire un premier pelleté de terre au début de l'été, et comme on avait annoncé à l'époque, si on n'a pas de problème, d'ouvrir l'installation vers la fin de 2025, comme on avait prévu. Maintenant, si on a des enjeux à l'intérieur de ce processus-là, peut-être ça va prolonger un peu le projet, mais on est à l'étape de sortir en appel d'offres là. Puis on attend après Montréal, on va avoir plus de nouvelles le plus vite possible. C'est quelque chose qui est voulu dans la communauté depuis 30 ans. On a dit dès notre arrivée à l'administration qu'on travaillait pour avoir une piscine intérieure à Pierrefonds-Roxboro, et on va le faire. So the pool project, the indoor pool project, which was slated and is slated next to City Hall here, is a project that we've been working on for many, many years. And we said when we came as an administration that we would be the ones that would hopefully be able to build the pool or have it built. And we are now, in the last 4 years, we've been working on the plans with our services where they are at the final stage to go out to tender. And we're hopeful that that will happen anytime very soon with the City of Montreal, and we're going to be asking about that in the next couple of days. And should everything be fine when it comes back, we're hoping for a groundbreaking event early summer to have the pool open officially by late 2025. So this is something that is encouraging to us. It's something that our community needs, multi-generational facility that will provide a service for our residents in-house, and we don't have to go, like many of us with our children, into our neighboring communities. As good as those services are, we also deserve those types of services in our community as well. So this is where we are with that. J'avais aussi, je ne voulais pas parler de ça, mais je vais le dire. Parce que j'ai vu, s'il vous plaît, je vais le dire. Le stationnement de rue pendant l'hiver est interdit. Pour ceux et celles qui nous écoutent sur le web diffusion, on ne travaille pas pour les contracteurs, les gens qui font nos entrées, on travaille pour vous, les citoyens. Ça cause un problème majeur au niveau de nos employés, au niveau de sécurité, au niveau de propreté sur les rues de l'arrondissement, quand les gens stationnent sur la rue pour des heures parce que leur contracteur n'est pas venu faire l'entrée. On a vu tous les images sur les médias sociaux. Puis là, qu'est-ce qui se passe quand les gens stationnent sur la rue parce que leur contracteur n'est pas venu pour l'entrée? Là, ils nous appellent quand leur entrée est correcte, ils remettent l'auto, puis ils disent « Mais comment ça se fait que la rue est comme ça? » La rue est comme ça parce que les gens stationnent sur la rue, attendent après leur contracteur des heures pour faire l'entrée, puis la ville passe entre-temps, puis la rue n'est pas bien faite. So, I know I'm not happy about that, and I don't sound happy about that. But Mr. Baudouin can attest, along with his employees, who have a very challenging job in terms of security and trying to do the best they can under the conditions they work under to clean our streets. And we have folks that put their cars on the street waiting for their contractors to come and do their driveways, and sometimes they don't move their cars for hours. So if I have a message there, please communicate with your contractors, find out when they're coming so that you can move your car, ideally the time that he's almost there, and then put it back in the driveway. Our services do not work for the contractors and the snow removal companies. We work for the citizens, and we work for the ability to be able to do our streets in a secure and proper way. Although it's not always perfect, we try to do the best we can. And so I'm asking the cooperation with our citizens to be able to do that. Je ne sais pas si, M. Baudouin, vous avez quelque chose à ajouter ou vous avez résumé le problème qu'on a vraiment sur le territoire. I also want to wish our Tamil community a happy month. The happy Thai Mongal, which is this month that they're celebrating, and we were at an event yesterday, and it was a remarkable event in Laval. But a lot of the folks that were there were residents of Pierrefonds-Roxboro who frequent the temple in Dollar des Ormeaux and are celebrating this month their historical month of Tamil. We also have the Chinese New Year that's coming up very soon, next week, and it's the Year of the Rabbit, so this goes out to our Chinese community, our Vietnamese community as well, which will be celebrating their New Year, and it's the Year of the Rabbit. I wish them prosperity, hope, and health, of course. I think that's all I had. Madame Louise Leroux, avez-vous quelque chose à ajouter concernant les écoles, concernant la situation sur la langue et le sens unique, pas respecté nécessairement par des gens sur 4e Avenue Sud?
Juste, premièrement, vous dire bonne et heureuse année. Je vous souhaite à tous santé, bonheur, prospérité et paix, évidemment. Soyez un peu patients autour des écoles. Évidemment, on a 3e Avenue et 4e Avenue Sud. Respecter la signalisation, c'est hyper important. Et là, je demande aux citoyens, aux parents et aussi aux contracteurs, parce qu'on a des gens qui vont à contresens. Donc, vérifiez là, les signalisations. On a travaillé fort avec les services pour changer la signalisation, pour rendre ça plus sécuritaire aux abords de nos écoles. On a 23, donc on a fait 10. Donc, on va faire les autres là, incessamment au printemps. Mais soyez sécuritaires, s'il vous plaît. Et peut-être aussi là, respectueux. Il y a des petits, des jeunes qui se promènent là, dans les rues le matin, là, les piétons aussi. Quand vous voyez là, que la rue est étroite, justement, merci, Monsieur le maire, d'avoir parlé là, justement des déneigements, mais on a beaucoup de piétons qui marchent dans la rue. Soyez, s'il vous plaît, respectueux envers les plus petits que soi, donc les voitures, laissez les piétons aller en premier. Merci.
Madame Leroux, merci beaucoup. Madame Cloutier, on commence avec la période des questions.
Vous faites l'ordre du jour?
Non, c'est la période des questions.
Alors, on va débuter avec la période de questions. Je vais vous inviter, lorsque votre nom est appelé, à vous rendre au lutrin. Pour activer le microphone, vous avez un petit papier jaune, donc il suffit de peser le bouton pour l'ouvrir. Je vous demanderai de vous limiter à 2 questions seulement et une sous-question. I would ask you, when your name is being called, to go to the podium. There's a paper, so when you want to activate the button, you just need to press it. Please limit yourself to 2 questions. We're going to do a first round of questions, 30 minutes. Première ronde de questions de 30 minutes. Alors, on va débuter avec la première question. J'appelle Monsieur Steve Martin.
My name is Steve. I live at 160 Début.
You just have to press the button, sir. Yeah. It has like a little half face on
This
it.
button.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for waiting.
My name is Steve. I live at 160 Rive de Boisé, the corner building around here. I'm 79 years old. I'm living on pension. My first concern is about a few weeks ago by the city, I saw many bulldozers were digging 8 holes and they're taking samples, soil samples. This is at the north side of the 160 building which have trees or 10 stories high. So someone told me that you're building a zonage, a flood zoning, which you already, I think, promised 2 years ago. Something like for the flooding. So I'd like to know what kind of a gate are you building? We should know. We're concerned because we live next door.
Is that the small green space that's facing the pool on Rive-Boisée?
Yeah, those big trees,
there's
160 north.
Yeah, there's a
The big wooded area.
north of those, where there's
yes.
a walking path that takes you down to the river, right? The one that's facing the park, if that's what you're talking about, right?
North side, where they have the big trees.
Yes, but that's what I'm asking you is, it's the lot that's between the
Yeah, the big
building
trees
and the
there,
first house.
the wooded area, those big trees.
Right. That area there, first of all, none of that will be developed. What will
God.
happen, I don't know what the core samples that they were building, maybe Mr. Baudouin, we're going to verify, but what is going to happen there is, as you know, during the floods, we installed temporary pumps on the street to be able to capture all the storm sewer water and have it evacuated back in the river once we build that temporary dike, if you remember, right? We're looking at eventually finding a more permanent solution in that area, whether it be a small pump house like we have in some other areas along the waterfront. That is under evaluation with the City of Montreal. We've been working very closely with them since 2017. The core samples that they're doing, I can't tell you what that is. We're going to find out and make sure that we report back to you, okay? Just so you know.
And I want to make sure if you're going to cut out any trees, those beautiful trees, which is 100-year-olds.
Look, you're right about that, and the intention is never to cut down any trees, provided, of course, that they can do what they need to in the space that they have. The ultimate goal is not to cut any, and we'll make sure that we'll be watching that project very carefully, in fact. And once there is more of a definite plan for that, we'll make sure that we'll advise you accordingly, okay?
As it gets back to the sidewalks,
Yes.
I notice again the mini bulldozers goes on the sidewalk. They're scraping the sidewalk. Something should be done. You don't have to go far. You go five minutes from here around Rive-Boisée or any other street. The sidewalks are terribly scraped up by your snow bulldozers. This should be something done. Maybe it's a solution to put rubber on instead of steel. You know, it's horrible. We're taxpayer. We're paying for it. And also, the road, St. John, I'm sure you take many times, 1,000 people every day in St. John. It's horrible. It takes a half an hour to go down St. John Road sometimes, traffic. The road is so bad, cracks, everywhere is cracks, potholes. I never see it so bad. And I see of course, the banners, the swimming pool, $43 million you're planning to build. I'm personally against.
Well, what is the
so
question,
the thing
sir?
is,
What is the question?
which is your priority? To build, putting banners to things like we don't really need. Its priority should be the roads, the sidewalks.
Thank you very much. And let me just say, with the
Priority.
sidewalks, we have a protocol. There are machines that are designed specifically for that. If we know in advance, for example, where some of those damages may be caused, if it's caused by the machines, certainly we have our experts that could look into that and see what other options are available. The St. John's, I don't know what the clapping was for. Is it for the traffic or not the traffic? But St. John's is a street that has a lot of traffic. There's no doubt about that. Just like every artery across the island of Montreal, we know that the roads are saturated, okay?
Very bad.
But one of your questions was, for example, that the road is very bad, it has potholes. If we know in advance where, sir, respectfully, if we know in advance where, and you call that into 311, and they make a note of it, or a picture. There's also an app, by the way, of the City of Montreal. You can, when you see a light, a pothole, a damage, something, you could do geo-mapping, and it'll tell us instantly where that location is. I'm giving you a little bit of a solution here. But if we know in advance, certainly we can mobilize the teams to go address that. Now, will it fix the traffic? By no means. but it'll fix the street. Your last comment was regarding our priorities. All of it is our priority, sir. All of it. We need the roads, just like we need the infrastructure, just like we need the recreational programs, just like we need the recreational facilities. And by the way, we negotiated all of that money comes from the City of Montreal and doesn't come directly from the tax base. Now, we can argue about that money being indirectly the citizens' money. It is, because it all goes to Montreal anyways, and then we get a portion back. But the fact is that file has been worked on for decades, to the point where the community has wanted this to happen in Pierrefonds-Roxboro for the longest time that we're able to do now. Will it affect your tax base, your tax bill directly? No, because that money is coming from Montreal, just like the library did, for example. So we're very lucky to be able to do that. Because if we were a city back how we were, Pierrefonds or Roxboro, financially, we would never have been able to do that unless we raise significantly our taxes, because we're all taxpayers too, to be able to do projects like that. So we have to keep a balance. And for us, the balance is not one against the other. It's trying to keep a balance to try to do everything that we can possibly and not impact our taxes and our capacity to pay as a community. And so we try to do this as carefully as possible. Believe me, it's not easy, but we do the best we can.
I must say you did a good job on Pierrefonds Boulevard, this big section here.
Yeah. And there'll be more like that too.
You did a great job.
Thank you. And by the way, a lot of those projects, by the way, are paid entirely by the City of Montreal, just so you know that. Okay. And we made that arrangement with them to be able to do that. You had one more, the bilingual status, I think.
Now, the thing is about bilingualism.
Yeah.
We know that the Gazette, most people who saw this, that's your picture right there.
I can't see from there, but I can imagine it's my picture.
It's you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says here, Pierrefonds-Roxboro bilingual statute not sure to a sure thing, mayor office.
Not
And
me.
here's your
I
picture.
didn't say that.
It's a Gazette. I just got it out.
Well, what does that mean? Because it's the Gazette, it's written in stone?
You can see the
What I'm telling
breakdown.
you is this. What I'm going to make, I'm going to put you at ease.
I
will fight.
Now,
Let me just finish. Win or lose here to maintain our bilingual status. I have said that from day one, from the first day I got in politics. Pierrefonds-Roxboro has been a bilingual ex-cities since the 70s. It is a service that is absolutely necessary in our community for many reasons. I can go into them, but I'm not, for many reasons. So we are passing a resolution tonight, and we'll wait till the reading of the resolution happens. And when we pass that resolution, because we are a borough, has to go to Montreal. Montreal initially wasn't sure they were going to do that. And how I spoke to Madame Plante, the mayor, and I spoke to her during an agglomeration meeting before the holidays, explained to her the necessity of us, even though we're the only bilingual status borough in the island of Montreal, to keep that and to retain that. She assured me that that would not be a problem in Montreal. Now, I have to take her for her word. And in Montreal, when we do go to City Council in Montreal, we pass it. But that's what we're hopeful for, and that's what we're going to keep going for.
The intimidation, the bully, I would say, by the OLF, which is the language police, we know that.
You have to turn on your mic, sir. You have to turn on your mic. Your microphone is off again.
They can't hear you at all.
There you go.
Now it's on?
Yes.
Okay. As by the intimidation I'm looking at, all those years, attack on the English population, it mostly the roots by the OLF, the language police.
But what's the question regarding that, sir?
That I believe that they are pushing not only this, other West Island municipalities too, to have a vote on bilingualism. So this is to attacking me, dividing us, to bring hatred to your neighbors.
Look, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop.
My opinion.
And I appreciate your opinion, sir.
Yeah,
respectfully, I do.
Okay.
Everyone and anyone knows my opinion on this. Everyone.
I know.
And so we can debate this all night if we want. The fact is that we are in Quebec. It is a French province. We respect that. We're in Montreal, a French metropolis. We respect that. But we also have to understand who we are as a West Island and who we are as ex-city of Roxboro and city of Pierrefonds, and that is something that we will continue to do that. Doesn't mean that our work environment changes because we work in French 100% of the time. It's, for
I
me,
speak
what's
French.
important is the communication we have with our citizens, and that has to be retained. It's absolutely necessary, and this is what we're going to do tonight, sir, okay? And we'll keep everybody abreast of what will happen in the coming steps, okay? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say add something else.
I
Takes 1 minute.
need to cut you off, sir. I apologize just because I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And we
Okay,
need to
okay,
get through
it
the
just
first-
takes 1 minute.
Go ahead.
Last summer, I live next door, so I walk out with a cardboard sign, of course, 96 crest out, and logo crest out. I walk on here on only the sidewalks,
Yeah.
maybe an hour,
Yeah.
in the summer afternoon. Someone called the police on me. There's a police car with 2 officers. I say, what is it? I cannot walk with the sign on the sidewalk. They say, not in Pierrefonds. I say, is this democracy? This is Pierrefonds, and you go home, we're going to follow you, or
Okay.
you're going to pay a heavy fine.
Okay,
So I'd
so-
like to know, is
Look,
this the law?
Look, I'm going to,
It's a yes
remember
or
I
no.
said before,
Yes
if you
or
have
no.
any questions for the SPVM,
Yeah,
you can
okay.
forward them to me. You can forward them. You have our email address. Madame Lagarde is in the back of the room there. She can give you my information, or we
I'd
have
like
your
to know,
information.
it's a yes or no, if you can demonstrate. I mean, I didn't bother nobody.
I don't have that offhand, but we're going to find that information, okay, and we're going to let you know.
To walk on the sidewalk.
I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out.
Thank you
sir.
very much.
I'm going to find out.
I thank you.
Thank you. Madame Cloutier.
Nous sommes beaucoup de personnes dans la salle. Je vous demanderai de vous limiter à 2 questions et d'être concis dans vos propos. Je vous remercie. Liv Alver.
Good evening.
Good evening, hello. My name is Lee Valver at 4502 Cloverdale,
Yes.
apartment 2. And I took pictures, I don't know how to show them to you, but...
That's okay. You can explain it.
Okay, I live right at the end of Cloverdale.
Yeah.
It's a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Now, the city has been, instead of putting the snow on trucks like they do with every other street, they push the snow to the end of Cloverdale. Our parking spots go off the road onto our parking spots because we're apartments there. Now, up until 3 years ago, that hasn't really been a problem because the city pushes the snow. There hasn't been that much snow, so it hasn't come further into the road to stop us. But now that the co-op has, since 3 years, they've hired a company. They do the same thing. They take all the snow from the parking lots and push to the end of the snow, to the end of the road.
Right.
Now it comes up, it's blocking us from getting out of our parking spots.
No, I know exactly where you're talking about, actually.
You know, and
Yes.
also for 3 years now, we haven't been able to put anything in our compost
Yeah.
or the recycling
Yeah.
because it's all covered.
The responsibility of the parking lots
Is the co-op,
is
yes.
the sole
and they're doing
responsibility of the
nothing.
co-op.
And they're
And they
doing
have to
nothing.
they have to give clear directives to the contractor that's doing all that,
Yes,
what to do, because you're not alone in living in these types of buildings. We have buildings like that on Pierrefonds Boulevard, we have them on Rive Boisée, we have them in other areas as well. I can name them all to you. So in all those cases, we have the contractor that knows specifically how to remove the snow in what area, so that those boxes can be accessible, and the custodian or whoever is the keeper of those buildings can bring those boxes out to where they need to go. If they're not doing that, I'm glad you're here to tell us, because we will make sure that we follow up with them, and Mr. Baudouin is nodding his head, so he's taking note of it. We will make sure that they do their job adequately so that you can have that space available to you to be able to do your job, okay? Just so you know, because we can't intervene if it's a private property. The only time we can intervene is where they put their snow if it becomes public property.
the snow is in the middle of the street.
That's right.
and it's-
That's
so-
right. No, that's
Isn't that
right, and
against the law?
that's not permitted. So we're going to make
So-
sure that we follow up with that as soon as possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for staying for the question, ma'am.
I think that's it, then.
Thank you.
Don't need to see. Are you going to go and visit?
I've gone to
I
visit
know-
many
you have-
times. I
you
know the
have
area
seen.
very well.
Okay.
But we will go, and Mr. Baudouin, effective tomorrow, will go and visit, and then our
Okay.
teams will intervene with the co-op to try to find a solution for them because they need to respect the city bylaws, and we know already in advance that no dumping of snow on public property is permitted. That goes
Right.
for the public parking lots or private
Yeah.
parking lots in the malls, the private parking lots in the buildings. Sir, please. And that also goes to your residents. If those snow companies come and they throw the snow on the street, that's not permitted either because
Right.
it blocks access.
Yeah.
Mr. Baudouin is aware of the bylaw. He will make sure that his team goes out and addresses that with the co-op so that they find an adequate solution for you, okay?
Thank you very much.
If you don't have any resolve in the
Okay.
next while,
Okay.
we have another bit of snow coming on Friday there, please reach back out to us, okay, so that we can follow up again if we have to, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
J'appelle Monsieur André Giguère.
Oui, bonsoir.
Monsieur Giguère, bonsoir.
Oui, André Giguère du 14 810, boulevard Gouin. Alors, je viens vous poser une question concernant un problème qui dure depuis des années.
Oui.
Le fait que des véhicules sont stationnés devant le 14 820 Rive-Boisée. Bon, un camion de déménagement qui est immobilisé dans l'entrée privée. C'est une entrée privée, là, je suis d'accord avec ça, mais qui est quand même là depuis 7 ans, immobilisé. Et depuis 2019 environ, donc un peu plus de 3 ans, un autre véhicule, mais qui est sur l'emprise municipale le long du trottoir. Et ce que ça cause, c'est qu'on a beaucoup de difficultés à voir pour sortir, ce qui cause un enjeu de sécurité. Mon épouse ici, Eugénia, qui est, comme vous voyez, est...
Je suis petite. Il y a beaucoup de neige à ce moment-ci. Il y a les camions, il y a l'auto. Et l'été même, qu'il y a plus de visibilité, ça fait 2 occasions que j'étais proche de frapper quelqu'un à vélo. Parce que Boulevard Gouin, c'est très passant. Il y a plein de gens qui partent à vélo dans un ride à vélo très très vite. Ils ne roulent pas à 20, ils sont beaucoup, 10 personnes à 40, ils sont dans les rides, ils ne voient pas. Quand je sors, j'étais comme ça de frapper une dame qui m'a engueulée et que je m'excusais parce que je sors vraiment doucement et ça fait 2 occasions que j'ai presque frappé une personne.
On connaît la
Aussi-
situation très bien.
Oui,
On a
mais-
émis des constats d'infraction. Là, le dossier sera attendu au cours municipal le 26 ou 28, le 26 janvier prochain.
À quelle heure? En journée ou en soirée?
Bonne question. En journée, en général, c'est ça, M. Kennel?
Oui, c'est à 1h10 à la salle 1.10 de la cour municipale au 445 Gosford.
OK, donc dans le Vieux-Montréal. Donc, et c'est public, donc on peut se rendre. D'accord. OK.
Ça veut dire qu'après cette date-là, on aura les outils, j'espère, pour faire le nécessaire pour enlever ce camion-là.
Oui.
On espère. Maintenant, on verra là, suite au cours municipal, mais comme j'ai dit, je pensais que c'était le 27-28, c'est le 26 janvier prochain.
Oui. Puis vous pourriez vous demander pourquoi on ne s'adresse pas directement aux gens pour leur demander de faire
Ben,
chose.
parce qu'on a déjà fait.
Oui, on le fait. Deux résidents particulièrement et qui ont des comportements incivils. Et là,
La civilité, M. Giguère, vous connaissez ça très bien. C'est pas facile des fois
Non, mais
et pas évident.
jusqu'aux criminels, parce qu'ils ont agressé mon épouse.
Vous savez,
comme vous
je
savez.
suis tout à fait d'accord avec vous, deux. C'est un dossier qui dure depuis longtemps.
Oui.
On essaie de trouver des solutions et comme les gens nous disent des fois, là, ils voient quoi que ce soit dans l'arrondissement puis ils disent, mais comment ça se fait que la Ville ne fait rien? Nous, on a quand même un processus légal à
D'accord.
respecter. Vous savez, si c'était à moi, on embauche un camionneur, une remorque pour aller sortir le camion. Mais on n'a pas le droit légalement. Il faut suivre le processus. Puis des fois, malheureusement, c'est
Ça fait
difficile.
des années.
Le plupart du temps, parce qu'on a d'autres cas comme ça, soit la propreté, soit des camions, des autos stationnés un peu partout. Suite à des communications avec les propriétaires, la plupart du temps, ça se règle.
Oui.
Mais dans ce cas, malheureusement, c'est pas réglé et c'est pour cette raison le dossier sera attendu au cours municipal. Suite à ça, je peux pas deviner ça serait quoi le résultat, mais on espère que ça va changer quelque chose, mais on va suivre ce dossier de près. Monsieur Kennel, avez-vous quelque chose à ajouter?
Oui, comme M. le maire vous l'a expliqué, on est au courant de la situation. Présentement, on a émis beaucoup de constats d'infraction. Le monsieur use beaucoup la cour pour utiliser par toutes sortes de manœuvres à se soustraire de l'obligation d'enlever son camion. À cette étape-ci, le 26 janvier, en plus de débattre du constat d'infraction, on va tenter de convaincre le juge d'émettre une ordonnance de se débarrasser du camion. Avec une ordonnance, on va être capable, s'il ne s'en départit pas dans un délai, de l'enlever nous-mêmes et de le remorquer sur une propriété privée. Mais ça
Ainsi que la voiture? Ainsi que la voiture?
La voiture, on espère
Est-ce sur l'emprise municipale, monsieur?
Oui, on espère, on va régler en premier camion, ensuite la voiture viendra en deuxième temps.
C'est ça.
D'accord, merci.
Madame Talbot avait quelque chose à ajouter, Monsieur Giguère.
Merci, je connais également la situation. Est-ce qu'il est possible que vous communiquiez avec l'arrondissement pour savoir si ça procède? Parce que parfois, les causes sont remises ou elles ne sont pas entendues parce que le rôle est trop abondant. Oui. Alors, avant de vous déplacer, il y a moyen que vous communiquiez avec M. Kennel pour savoir si ça procède ou non.
Où est-ce qu'on peut le voir sur est-ce qu'il y a un site web de la cour municipale, quelque chose? D'accord.
Je pense que ça va être mieux. Merci, M. Kennel. Merci, M. le maire, de m'avoir permis.
M. Giguère, merci beaucoup. Merci. Oui, Mme Cloutier.
Alors, on va poursuivre. M. Alexandre Anna.
Monsieur et Mesdames du comité, merci.
Bonsoir.
Bonne soirée. J'habite au 45 Georges Vanier, à Roxboro. Et puis, la semaine dernière, il y a eu des camions municipaux qui sont passés. Ils ont changé la signalisation. Comme vous le savez, je crois que ça faisait partie des recommandations qui ont été soumises par la firme d'ingénierie Stantec concernant le projet du REM. Bon, Madame Leroux, vous avez mentionné qu'on doit respecter les niveaux de signalisation. Je suis tout à fait d'accord. Mais malgré le fait que là, la signalisation sur la rue Georges Vanier et Jean-Briand, c'est maintenant devenu des rues sens unique. C'est mal commode, mais pour ma part, je suis prêt à m'adapter à ça. Une autre des recommandations qu'ils ont fait, par contre, c'était d'interdire le stationnement de rue en tout temps. Okay? Vous avez mentionné ça, Maire Bates. Ça, je crois que ça a été une recommandation mal songée. Tout simplement parce que si, sur Georges Vanier et Jean-Briand, s'il n'y a aucun stationnement de rue permis en tout temps, ça veut dire que tous les résidents des deux rues, on n'est plus en mesure de recevoir des invités. On vient juste de passer la période des fêtes. Et imaginez-vous là, que vous ne serez pas en mesure de recevoir ni des amis, ni de la famille en tout temps. Je ne parle pas pendant les heures de pointe. Alors, moi, ma suggestion serait tout simplement d'ajuster la signalisation pour le stationnement, par exemple, de 7 heures du matin à, par exemple, 18 heures. Comme ça, au moins, on sera en mesure de recevoir des invités le soir et la fin de semaine. Et puis, M. Baudouin, ce n'est pas l'intention du tout là, d'essayer de mettre des bâtons dans les roues de votre équipe. Mais vous aviez mentionné, Mayor Bates, the contractors who come and to remove the snow and cause these problems. Mais si on ajuste tout simplement les heures où ça serait permis, I believe it would address this problem.
You want me to answer this in English or in French?
Oh, peu importe.
OK. Oui, c'est selon les recommandations de Stantec, number one. L'autre chose, on a analysé la situation avec le comité de circulation.
Okay.
Vous savez, comme on a fait autour des écoles, notre priorité, c'est pour sécuriser nos rues.
Tout à fait normal.
Pour plusieurs raisons. Non-respect de la loi par les conducteurs, etc. Dans ce cas, à Roxboro, comme vous savez, une ville, ex-ville, qui date depuis 1914, ces maisons ont été construites en des années 50, je crois.
50, 60, yeah.
Exactement. L'idée à l'époque, c'était de faire les rues étroites. Et Ornell, George Vanier, parce que je demeure pas loin de là, George Vanier puis Jean-Briand, les rues sont maximum à des endroits spécifiques de 7,6 mètres. Pour permettre, aussitôt qu'on fait l'analyse, qui nous disent la rue est tel mètre large, on a des obligations à respecter. Ça veut dire, si on n'a pas le 9, M. Baudouin, le 9, whatever it is there, le 9, j'avais le document, puis je ne l'ai pas avec moi.
There's a minimum width that the street has to be.
Le 9.4,
Okay.
je crois. Si on n'a pas ça, on ne peut pas laisser les gens stationner, peu importe le côté. Maintenant, Georges Vanier, Jean Briand, en général, on avait depuis les années que je travaillais à Roxboro, vous pouvez imaginer les années, là, qu'on avait un problème au niveau de déneigement, au niveau de sécurité, au niveau de pas de trottoir, les gens marchaient sur la rue. Pendant l'hiver, la rue devient plus étroite parce que malheureusement, on n'a pas nécessairement les terrains disponibles pour mettre la neige comme on a dans mon secteur et d'autres secteurs résidentiels. Et là, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Les jeunes marchent au milieu de la rue. Même un camion de recyclage, quand ça passe, vous savez, vous êtes là.
Oui, oui.
Quand le camion passe, vous n'avez même pas la place pour passer avec un autre auto l'autre direction. Ça veut dire, il fallait prendre des décisions. Des fois, ces décisions ne sont pas faciles, hein, je vous dis. Le problème, c'est que la rue n'est pas étroite. On a à peu près, dans plusieurs de ces maisons, 2 cases de stationnement, à peu près par résidence.
Ouais.
Si on ne fait pas le sens unique, ça ne donne pas l'espace nécessaire pour protéger vraiment les piétons.
Ouais.
Je préside le comité de circulation et sécurité. On a analysé le dossier plusieurs fois pour trouver une solution qui faisait de sens. Maintenant, à cause qu'on a cette réalité sur le terrain, on a pris cette décision-là et on a écouté un peu la recommandation. Et vous savez que le comité, ce n'est pas juste nous, la ville, comme j'ai dit souvent. C'est l'SPVM, c'est les ingénieurs, c'est les travaux publics, c'est des citoyens qui siègent aussi sur ce comité-là, puis on était tous d'accord avec le changement. Ceci étant dit, vous avez demandé la question, mais si vous avez des visiteurs, qu'est-ce que vous faites? Tout à fait légitime comme question. Qu'est-ce qu'on faisait avant, comme vous vous souvenez très bien peut-être? On disait aux gens, vous avez l'opportunité de stationner maintenant dans le petit stationnement au train. Right? Le petit stationnement au train au bout de Jean-Briand.
Mais ça, ce n'était pas ouvert au public. Ça demandait des permis spéciaux, non?
Moi, je vous dis le passé, comment ça fonctionne.
OK, oui.
Parce que même avant, imaginez avant, on avait le droit de stationner les 2 côtés de la rue. Imaginez. Si on avait 2 autos, puis je connais des gens qui demeurent sur Jean-Briand, j'ai des connaissances qui restent là.
Ouais.
Ça veut dire qu'on laisse les gens stationner sur la rue, il n'y a même pas assez d'espace pour un camion de recyclage de passer.
Oui.
Ça veut dire qu'il fallait trouver une solution. Puis si vous avez des visiteurs, moi, je vous encourage d'aller un peu plus loin et de trouver de stationnement ailleurs. C'est la seule chose que je peux vous dire. Je sais que ce n'est pas la réponse que vous voulez, respectueusement, et je suis d'accord avec vous si vous n'êtes pas content. Mais mettez-vous dans notre situation quand on analyse un secteur, puis là, on a travaillé très fort à l'époque pour mettre des vignettes, parce qu'on voulait éliminer les gens qui stationnaient avec le train, parce que, je me souviens très bien, ça causait un problème pour les résidents, parce qu'ils disaient c'est pas sécuritaire, parce que les gens stationnent sur notre rue. Puis là, on revient maintenant, plusieurs années plus tard, puis on dit, on n'a pas l'espace pour stationner sur la rue. Mais vous avez demandé, pas vous peut-être, mais les résidents en général ont demandé, mais écoutez, là, il faut empêcher les gens qui stationnent sur la rue parce que ça cause un problème au niveau de sécurité. C'est ça qu'on a fait.
Ma deuxième question dans ce cas-là sera, il n'y a pas un compromis à faire à ce moment-là?
Regardez qu'est-ce que je vais faire. Je vais revoir ce dossier au comité de circulation pour voir si on a des endroits, peut-être pas devant chez vous, là, mais dans ce secteur, sur la rue, Georges Vanier, Jean-Briand, Ornel, pour voir si on a des possibilités de vous accommoder. J'ai pas la solution vite, parce
Non,
que
ça,
7,3 mètres, là, c'est
je le
vraiment
comprends.
minimum.
Mais c'est pour ça que j'avais proposé des temps particuliers, des temps qui vont minimiser the disruption of public works.
Yeah, but
pour
how
le
does that, but
déneigement.
I'm not talking about public works even. I'm not even talking about public works. I'm talking about public safety. When you have children, because it's a high dense area with young families
Yeah.
that walk through that area, not only to go to school, like
Sure.
Lalande, but they use Roxboro Pool as well,
Yeah.
and they frequent that area on foot. So, because there's also a curb there, automatically on a curve, you're not allowed to allow parking there, automatically. So you have a curve on Jean-Briand, according to the law,
Yeah.
right? You're not allowed on the curve. Then you have another curve on Georges Vanier near the pool that you're not allowed there. So you start eliminating those portions. Then you're not allowed to put anything close to the intersection. There's a certain footage that you have to respect near the intersection that you're not allowed to have parking. So the first houses on Georges Vanier and Jean-Briand there by the parking lot,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to park there because by law you're not allowed to park there. So there you go, another section eliminated. You go to Hernell, another intersection there, there's a sector there you're not allowed either. So we looked at all of that and we said, what is the option? So you start eliminating these little chunks everywhere, you're left with very little. So then you have sporadic parking everywhere that poses a problem for all. And that's the one way not only creates a smaller portion for the car to ride, but it allows also some road that you can access, whether you're on foot, on bike,
Yeah,
or whatever.
the one way I get, c'est des décisions pratiques qui doivent être mises en place
Right.
dues aux situations difficiles. I get that. But at the same time, I can't ignore the fact that là, si on va avoir un invité qui vient de chez nous, c'est une marche de 10 minutes, là, tu sais, en janvier.
I'm going, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to look at it with our committee once again. We'll analyze literally every portion of that street to see if we can find some type of compromise, okay?
Fair enough.
That's the best I can do
Very
at
good.
this stage, but I have to tell you, these decisions haven't been made unilaterally, and they're not easy ones to make because of the environment that we have. And when you look back 50, 60 years ago, I mean, the laws that governed how we place cars on streets were different from what they are today.
I get it.
So
And my
I just want us
perception
to
may be
understand
different
that.
because I've been at that address since 1979, right? Fait que ça
Right.
fait 40 ans, puis
And you know how
l'histoire du
it was.
stationnement, yeah, it's...
And you know that area, by the way, was built specifically for that area.
yeah.
Wasn't built for anybody to wayfind through it.
No,
It was
that's
built just for the complex. Even the pool at that time, it was the Terrace Roxboro pool.
Yeah.
That pool, and I know it because I was a volunteer there. The terrace pool was built for those townhouses only.
Yeah.
That's what it was back
No,
then.
I get it.
There was no exit even to go into a commercial center
Yeah.
back in the day. So a lot of things have changed, but we will look at it again with the committee, okay?
Very good.
I promise
Merci
you that.
beaucoup.
Thank you. Madame Cloutier, ça nous prend une prolongation?
Oui, on va demander une proposeur appuyante pour prolonger la période de questions de
Je
15 minutes.
propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Alors, j'appelle Madame et Monsieur Piggins.
Yeah, just turn it back.
It's on this
One thing just before the questions. We also live on Georges Vanier, number 18. We've been there for 17 years. Love the area, it's beautiful. When was anyone on the streets advised of the signage changes? Because I have no
Physical, yeah.
person on that street who can identify when they received a notification of any change of signage. Not even a letter, nothing.
I don't
And I
have-
can tell you, as a resident who pays, in my opinion, way too much in taxes right now, that is disrespectful by this city, and I understand perhaps that it might be the city of Montreal that had handled this.
No. It's
Okay.
us, it's us. So I have to be honest, I don't know what communication was made with the citizens. I think as we move forward, should these major changes be implemented, normally what happens is when, in the traffic committee, when we study all these files, the person that makes the request to analyze any given situation, they get a response back to them to tell them what the measures will be. For example, if I wanted a speed bump in front of my house, when the committee will analyze it, whatever the decision will be, they will communicate that message back to me since I was the one that made this request. In this case, because it was the whole sector, because of the issues that we had in the past, I don't know, honestly, who was communicated and what the communication was, but I plan to look into that and find out where, if there was a disconnect, where it happened, okay? Ideally, what we'd like to do is anytime these major changes are put into place, we need to communicate with the citizens so that they are well informed. And I hear you, and I support that. But I can't answer now in terms of where that ended up with our committee and how that came back to the citizens, if it did in fact. But I will find out, okay? And if that was an oversight on somebody's part, on our part, then we assume full responsibility. But nothing negates the fact from the decision being made for the reasons I mentioned to the earlier gentleman, okay? So I'm being as honest as I can. I mean, I can make up all I want, but I don't need to. I'm telling you how it is.
And to respond very quickly to your comment about being able to park in the train parking area, I will respectfully tell you that there is no way you could park in that parking lot because the construction company who is handling the REM has left more debris, rocks, and garbage in there than I care to drive over with my car, and it is never cleaned, ever. Not once, not all year, zero. There is no
that's good to tell
truck
us.
that has gone by to pass a even little shovel.
That's not a public parking lot. It is their parking lot, as you know. But if we want to create and have a shared use with them, certainly there are some obligations on their part as well. But we're going to look into that, okay? That's not the ideal solution, I understand, for folks that live particularly at the end of Jean-Briand near the park.
Realistically, I'll be perfectly honest, where I am, and I appreciate everybody else has to park on the street, I make sure I have a large parking spot in front of my house. I'm very lucky. I have 4 spaces. I make sure it's cleaned 100% so that when people come over, everyone can park in my drive as much as possible.
I
to
hear
the
you.
point where I've invited neighbors who are stuck or have a third car that they can use my parking space temporarily.
It's the same situation, and I appreciate all those comments. It's the same issue we have. For example, somebody who buys a condo, let's say. And already in advance, they know when they buy the condo that they have X amount of spots. And then they come to us and they say, well, look, I got 3 cars here. What's the city going to do? Well, you knew when you bought this condo that you had 1 spot. It's not the city's responsibility to make do with what you need, unfortunately, because those regulations are in place, and we want to limit that to as much as possible. In a single-family dwelling, normally, I'm not saying always because we have a large territory, but normally we have 2 parking spots, normally. In townhouses like yours, in some others like on Athena, and I can name you all those streets that have those row houses, sometimes it's not always easy, I get you. And if we wanted to, we could have done one side parking or alternate or whatever, but because the meters of the road or the width of the road doesn't allow for it, legally, we can't do anything. I can't create something because if we allowed parking on the street, for example, in some of these areas, and something was to happen, first of all, the truck can't get through. And then I have people calling me because the snow isn't cleared properly. Well, the truck can't get through. Do you know how many times M. Baudouin has called us when I get complaints from Jean-Briand because of the snow and tells me, well, we couldn't go in. The truck went down Hornell and he had to back up because he couldn't go in. So we have to really...
The issue becomes you're now causing that sort of an issue with school buses.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that.
You're forcing school buses down Hornell, and they can't make that turn.
They can't make the turn.
No, I know that. And so these are issues, unfortunately, in small streets. And so what's the solution? The solution is, do you take away expropriate land so that you can make the street larger, or you try to adapt with the environment that you have and make it sort of fair for everybody? And it's not an easy one, but like I mentioned to the other gentleman, we're going to review that as well and see if there are portions of the street that we can, at least during some points of the day, allow for parking. Like I said, it may not be in front of that house, for example, but it's not going to be a 10-minute walk either. So we're going to look at what some of the options are, okay?
She's got a question.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My question is, our vignette signs for parking are still on the street? Are they still valid?
No.
Okay, so
No.
why are they still there?
What, the vignette signs
The
are up?
signs are still
Well, we're
there.
going to verify, but all those had to be removed as far as I know,
Vignette
Mr.
signs
Baudouin.
are still there. They cause confusion because on the left
You're right
side
on.
in front of my
Yeah.
house, they put a nice new pole right in the middle of my kitchen window. Thank you very much. And
I have
there's
one
a
too. I
vignette
have one
sign
too.
and then no parking, but there was never a pole there. It was on the light post.
I don't know. Those signs should have been removed.
Well,
and
it's causing confusion.
thank you for telling us.
Because that post in front of my window says no parking from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. And the light post further down, just around the edge of my property, says no parking from 9 a.m. to...
Is this the first time you tell somebody about it? Okay.
We've
got the
made
signs
complaints
less than
on
a week ago.
311. It's a week that we've had the signs.
Okay.
The snowplow has gone the wrong way down the street to clear the street.
3 times.
3 times. The contractors are not helping anything, and
And
course,
Google is terribly confused
Yes.
because all the drivers come up the wrong way.
Okay,
Exactly.
well, I'm glad you tell me all this. All of that is noted, and we'll make sure that we address that as soon as possible. Okay,
Right.
I understand that transitional stage, like Madame Leroux mentioned on 4th Avenue, we did the same thing a number of years ago,
Saw it
actually, and people are still turning on 4th because they want to get to Gouin quicker. Meanwhile, we're disrespecting. Could you go on a one-way street the other way and think you're going to get away with it? So we've asked for police presence in these areas to make sure that they, not ticket, but at least start warning people that, hey, look, this isn't permitted. But the points that you've raised, the trucks going in the different direction, the signs that are sort of confusing, we'll make sure we address that. Monsieur Baudouin is there, and we'll look into
There's-
that. That shouldn't be the case, by the way, but, you know, it's not always perfect.
Well,
I have
that's
to
it.
tell you.
I do
Come-
have one small thing
Go
as
ahead.
well. I'm assuming, or yeah, I'm assuming, which is a terrible thing. The persons who handle garbage, are they contractors or city workers?
No, they're not city workers, they're contractors.
Okay. When we have destroyed garbage cans, because it's now 3 in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Who do I
You call
send that to?
311.
Okay, that's it.
Always.
Perfect.
Because you're not alone. You know,
It's quite frustrating because we literally bought a brand new one,
Yeah.
and within 3 weeks, they had smashed it to the ground.
Let's be
and I've got a
perfectly
hole at the
honest.
bottom.
Depends, first of all, depends who's driving the truck that day, number one, because I've seen it.
Yeah.
We know we've made numerous complaints with the company that manages, not only here, in other communities as well, because it's the same company, right? We know that there's a problem with this company particularly. You've seen it in the news. Sometimes the stuff doesn't get picked up the day or two later. We fine them continuously. We make complaints against the company. They have a contract that they need to respect, but meanwhile, they'll pay the fine and then they carry on because they don't have the appropriate workers and stuff like that. So we're at their mercy to a certain point because there aren't many companies that will have that type of resource to be able to do this, right?
Fair.
But we have occasions where they've damaged containers and they've reimbursed folks. If it's a recycling bin or a brown bin,
We fixed that already.
no, but we have the city that takes care of that because we have that in stock, and if we don't stock it, we'll go get it. The garbage bin, the private ones, like the one I have, for example, if that gets damaged by these companies, well, certainly you report that as soon as possible and make sure that somebody at the city knows, and then we'll make sure that that contact is made with the company to try to replace it, okay?
Thank you.
All right, folks.
Mr. Mayor, the only other thing I'd like
Yeah.
to say is with the signage, the other sign that causes a problem, there's a sign that says straight only between, I believe it's 4 and 7 on 8th and
Toward-
5th
Yeah,
South.
Yeah.
How do I get home from the East End?
Well, look,
At those hours?
we've noted
That's
all,
another issue.
I know that. Well, you have to go around to Fifth and then take Cornell.
I think the confusion honestly
It-
ends
no,
up
but
that
it's-
that
it's-
sign
that
I know,
is- That's
I know.
where it is.
almost half a block down past the stop sign, so people might get confused.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a cul-de-sac, so shouldn't be a problem, but just in case, it would be better to bring that
Monsieur
back.
Baudouin, c'est noté. Monsieur Baudouin, c'est noté. I'm going to tell you also, and again, I don't want to give you a teaser, but we're looking at that whole intersection of 8th, Commercial, 11th, and the entrance to that parking lot. We need to look at that configuration because with the train coming, relatively soon, that whole intersection has to be reconfigured to make it safer and accessible. Right now, there's a stop sign there. You see a temporary one. Some folks don't even use it.
That's another
And I know this
issue.
because I live there. I live
know,
around the corner
I know.
from you.
I've seen people blow through
I know the area very well, among other areas. But I know that there's a particular problem there, okay? And look, when it was built back in Roxboro back in the day,
I
it
get
wasn't
it.
any, and that wasn't even the original configuration, by the
No,
way.
I know, I get
That
it.
happened with the train later on.
That's it. I
Thank
get
you for
it.
coming,
Thank you.
ma'am. Thank you.
J'appellerai Monsieur Juan Echagu.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Je viens ajouter d'autres sujets sur le même problème du camion de 14 820. Pour que tout
Oui.
le monde sache, c'est celui-là.
Oui.
Juste pour un petit mot sur ce que mon voisin André Giguère a dit. C'est un problème qui, au moins, vient à l'encontre d'au moins 3 règlements municipaux, entre autres l'abandon de véhicules sur l'emprise municipale, comme bien a dit mon voisin André, et un camion commercial qui est abandonné aussi, même si c'est dans un driveway privé. Mais en fait, je vais parler d'un autre sujet, d'un autre angle de ces problèmes, c'est les problèmes de salubrité Comme c'est déjà dit, nous sommes en processus judiciaire avec ces voisins désagréables. C'est assez sérieux. Hein. On s'en va à la cour criminelle. Il y a des actes criminels. Puis c'est pas ça que je vais parler ici. C'est pas les sœurs municipales, la criminalité, mais c'est sérieux. Par contre, ces camions commencent à être un dépôt des ordures et notre cher voisin s'amuse à mettre ces ordures devant chez nous, juste parce qu'il sait qu'on est fâché avec lui à cause de cette situation. Alors, je parlais plusieurs fois, comme M. Kennel le sait bien, on parle depuis le mois de juillet. J'attends encore votre appel de retour. Et puis, on passe souvent au 311 pour venir régler ces problèmes de salubrité et rien ne se passe.
C'est quoi la question, monsieur?
La question, c'est un problème de salubrité. C'est un problème qu'il y a des rongeurs, il y a des ratons laveurs et des rats à cause de ces situations du camion, parce que monsieur s'amuse à garder des déchets, des poubelles, des couches souillées d'adultes, c'est pas agréable à dire, mais c'est comme ça, en dessous de son camion parce qu'il sait qu'on n'aime pas son camion qui soit là.
Monsieur Kennel, est-ce qu'on était au courant de cette situation?
J'ai eu la plainte, vous avez fait une plainte ou votre voisin a fait une plainte. Ouais, excuse. Quand je vous dis un autre, là, on en est rendu à 3 constats d'infraction pour des poubelles. À chaque fois que vous allez nous faire une plainte sur des poubelles, je vais envoyer pronto mon inspecteur, il va avoir un constat. À un moment donné, il va comprendre qu'il faut qu'il se ramasse. C'est mon seul pouvoir, hein? C'est le constat. Alors, soyez assurés qu'à chaque fois que vous allez m'écrire un courriel parce que vous observez des poubelles, je vais envoyer mon inspecteur, ça va me faire plaisir.
Madame Cloutier.
Oui, alors nous allons poursuivre avec Barbara Nelly.
Good evening. Thank you for waiting to ask your question.
Go ahead.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk.
It's our pleasure.
We live on a street, maybe you know it, Narine La France.
I know it.
Okay. We're here to bring up a problem that we've had for the last 15 years on that street, including the services that are provided. Number one, recycling. We get missed 2 times a month on a regular basis, and just this last time was 3 times in a row. I've called 60 times to 311 to complain about the recycling. They always forget our street because it's a very little crescent, 12
Street
homes.
or your home?
The whole street.
Okay.
They ride right by and they don't even know the street exists. I have to call. They have to come maybe a day or 2 later to pick up all the recycling.
Okay.
Garbage is the same thing, but not as bad.
Okay.
So my question is, how many times do I have to call 311? And that's to fix the problem. I even went as far as send you a private email on the city 1 month ago. I never got an answer with a whole list of what was going on that street.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time.
That's one problem.
Well, let me talk about that one first.
Okay.
Let's do one at a time. The idea that you have an issue on your street because you're getting forgotten, that you're calling 60 times for the same situation is completely unacceptable, number one. The calling 60 times, the writing me from forwarding the email to our services for appropriate follow-up is one thing, but it's the disrespect of the company that continues to do this after the city has intervened many times. It's not the first time we hear this, not only on your street, but on some other, let's say, dead-end streets, for example. They'll bypass it and they'll go only after we intervene, okay? So it is unacceptable to me that this continues to happen, particularly, consistently for the past number of years, okay? So this is something that we're going to follow up again. I can't get in the truck and drive down the street and do your street. All we can do is make sure that we advise the company, because it's a contractor, as you know. And if it was a snowplow, that was another thing. We can verify with them and find a proper solution because we manage those services ourselves. The contract has a responsibility to do every house. 18,000 roughly homes that we have in Pierrefonds-Roxboro. So if they miss a street, I'd like to think in their defense that it's not purposely, but they should be reacting after all those times. 1 time, 2 time, I understand, but 60 times? Because every time you call 311, they register a case number to your call. That case number is given to the responsible services to make sure they take appropriate action. So if the appropriate action was to communicate with the company to have them go by your street and not forget you, I can't speak for the services necessarily, but I'm certain that that was done. Now, if they continue not to do it, then I have a problem.
Well, I'd like to add something to it.
Go ahead, ma'am.
I called myself 311 many times as well, and I went as far as asking to investigate.
Yeah.
And they opened a ticket, and each time I would follow up, they said, well, the truck broke down. I said, okay. Next time I call, well, we think the truck broke down. It was always the same response, but again, the investigation, I asked for an investigation. Nobody ever follow up on it.
Okay, I'm going to follow up on it.
Okay,
I'll tell you why.
thank you.
I'll tell you why.
But
I'll tell you why. Hang on, sir, because she just mentioned something about the truck breaking down. There are cases where the trucks have broken down. This we know.
Yes.
There were cases where they had very low or no manpower. We know this as well. And that, unfortunately, extended to the day or two after the pickup. That's in the best case scenario. But what you're talking about is the worst case scenario where you're completely being neglected. And so we have your information. We don't have a phone number for you, but I have an email that you sent. Okay? And that went to our services. We're going to make sure, M. Baudouin, qu'on vérifie pour cette adresse avec le contracteur, avec le numéro de la situation from 311, and we will make sure we will find where, because what happens is when they issue you a number, there's a critical path from the time you get a call to the time that ticket is closed, what action was taken. That's going to be my intention to find out what happened.
Well, I can leave you the follow-up number
Please,
that I
if you
wish
could.
to leave.
Please.
Okay.
Please. You can leave that with Madame Lagarde, the lady that's at that table at the end. Please.
I want to add one more thing. It
Yes.
doesn't just include the recycling, but it
Yes.
includes snow removal.
Yes.
So I got so frustrated that they would miss our street for snow removal that I stopped the truck at Public Works in front of the truck, and I asked the driver, why are you not cleaning our street?
What do you say?
He said, what street is that? I said, Narina La France. He says, oh, yeah, I can't go in there because the truck is too big. I said, okay. He says, the loader has to go in there. I said, great. Can you call the loader? So he calls him on the phone. I was there. And he asked the loader, why didn't you clean Narina La France? He says, I don't have it on my list.
Okay, well, Monsieur Baudouin, s'il vous plaît.
But this has been going on for years.
Yeah,
and
but-
I can remember you even coming to the street years ago when I complained that they would forget us. So this is an ongoing thing for the last 10 years.
Sir, respectfully, it is completely unacceptable. I agree with you. And I'm sure it is unacceptable to everybody that's sitting here, including my services, that this is happening. And it continues to happen. And you're right, I do remember coming by. And I'd like to think that after we came by, things were resolved to a certain degree soon after that. But then they went back to what they are, or what they were before our visit, okay? And so that's something that we're going to make sure. And you're not the first one to say that I came, because a lot of the times, for the folks that are listening, anytime we get a complaint that's unusual, we make sure that we address it on a personal level to try to find resolve, okay? And this is what we're going to do. Monsieur Baudouin is quickly taking notes. I see him there, and we're going to address this. And the loader part of it, it's not unusual, because we have my sector. It's done by loader. Because the streets are small, you can't get in with the plows like you would normally, but there still has to be a schedule for them to be able to do that, okay?
Exactly.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that, for trash removal, I think we called once in the last 19 years. So they follow through every week.
The same company. It's the same company that does the recycling.
But why recycling is not picked up?
I don't know.
And green waste, the same thing.
I don't know. And this is what's fascinating to me. Like I said, it's not the same truck for sure, but it's the same company. So we're going to make sure. This is completely unusual to me. Okay. And I've heard many things through the years, but this one being missed so many times to me is not normal. And we're going to try to find resolve for you, okay? I promise you.
I got
okay?
one last note. 2 years ago, the snow removal guys with the loader, backed up and destroyed one of the light posts on the street. It's 2 years now that we've been calling to find out what's happening with the light post. It's still broken with wires sticking out of the ground, and it's been 2 years now that we've been asking to have that light post replaced. Nobody ever gets back to us to figure out what to do with that light post.
This is the first time I hear of this right now.
Well,
And the electrician will go by tomorrow, to make sure that they verify that, okay? And, you know, when it reaches our level, it's not because there's a lack of commitment on anybody's part, respectfully. It's sometimes things aren't always perfect.
I understand.
And I have to be fair to everybody because everybody's devoted and does the best they can. Could this be one of those cases, for example, with the light, for whatever reason? I'm not even going to speculate. But we'll make sure that the electrician is there tomorrow to make sure that he analyzes the situation. He'll report back to Mr. Baudouin, who's his superior, and Mr. Baudouin will communicate with you to let you know what's happening with that as well, okay? Please rest assured that we will do that.
All right, thank you.
Have a good evening, folks.
Monsieur le maire, nous aurions passé la seconde période de questions. Il nous reste 3 citoyens dans la salle.
On va attendre à la fin de la lecture. Oui, ça nous prend une...
Oui, je vais prendre...
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. 10.03, que soit adopté l'ordre du jour de la séance du Conseil d'arrondissement. Oh, pardon, avec le 12.01 qui est retiré ce soir.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
10.04, que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du Conseil tenue le 5 décembre 2022 à 19h soit approuvé tel que soumis aux membres du Conseil avant la présente séance et versé aux archives de l'arrondissement.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. 15.01, that the Borough of Pierrefonds-Roxboro wishes to retain the bilingual status granted to it under Section 29.1 of the Charter following receipt of the notice received on December 12, 2022.
I propose.
J'appuie.
Et comme j'ai dit, mesdames et messieurs, ça va suivre, ça va être présenté au Conseil municipal de la Ville de Montréal et après l'adoption à la Ville de Montréal, ça va aller au Québec pour recevoir leur certificat officiel.
I should say I concur.
Merci, Madame Talbot. 20.01. Que le Conseil d'arrondissement reconnaisse les 5 organismes à but non lucratif visés par la liste des organismes à but non lucratif reconnus dans le cadre de la politique de reconnaissance et de soutien des organismes à but non lucratif de l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro, élaborée par la Direction Culture, Sport, Loisirs et Développement social, que cette reconnaissance des organismes entre en vigueur dès son adoption. On parle de Club Roxboro 60+, on parle de Jeunesse Lacorde, Toastmasters de Pierrefonds, les cadets de l'air Escadron 803 et les cadets de l'air Escadron 830. J'en prends un proposeur appuyeur.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 20.02, que le Conseil accorde une contribution financière à 4 500 $ à Vers Cité pour la gestion du programme de subvention de couches lavables et du programme des produits d'hygiène féminine durables pour le territoire de l'arrondissement Pierrefonds-Roxboro, que Mme Louise Ampini, chef de division culture, bibliothèque et développement social, soit autorisée à signer la convention au nom de l'arrondissement.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. 20.03. Que le Conseil accorde le contrat SP 2022-15 à la firme Les Services IXP Inc. ayant obtenu le plus haut pointage final pour des services professionnels relatifs à l'élaboration d'un plan de mobilité durable dans l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro au montant de sa soumission pour une somme maximale de 86 001 $, taxes incluses, d'autoriser l'affectation de cette dépense à même le surplus 2023 conformément aux informations financières inscrites au dossier décisionnel. C'est le 20.03.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 30.01, que soit approuvée telle que soumise la reddition financière, la liste des dépenses mensuelles par demande de paiement, de virement et la liste des engagements des différents services de l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro, montant de 191 551, couvrant la période de 29 octobre au 25 novembre 2022, ainsi que la liste des paiements par carte de crédit pour la période du 1er au 30 novembre 2022, au montant de 10 337 $.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 3002, que le Conseil d'arrondissement autorise la direction des travaux publics à disposer des casiers vestimentaires désuets au recyclage du métal pour la révalorisation des métaux et à la suite du projet de rénovation du vestiaire des employés col bleu. C'est le 3002.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 4001A, c'est un avis de motion est donné par le conseiller conseillère à l'inscription pour adoption à une séance subséquente du règlement CA 29.0001.13, modifiant le règlement CA 29.001 sur la délégation de pouvoir aux fonctionnaires et employés de l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro afin d'ajouter au chapitre 3, article 18 intitulé Virement des crédits et l'article 19 intitulé Disposition des biens. C'est un avis de motion.
Je donne l'avis de motion, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. Le 4001, c'est le même dossier B, mais l'adoption. Ça me prend un proposeur appuyeur.
Je propose.
Et j'appuie.
Merci. Le 4002A, c'est un avis de motion est donné par le conseiller conseillère à l'inscription de l'adoption à une séance subséquente du règlement CA 29.0040.60 afin de reconduire les dispositions du règlement CA 29.0040.34.1 intitulé Règlement modifiant le règlement de zonage numéro CA 29.0040 aux fins de modifier la définition du résidence tourisme et d'aborger la définition gîte touristique au chapitre 3, terminologie, article 25, d'aborger le paragraphe 2 de l'article 71 et l'article 78 du chapitre 6, dispositions relatives aux usages additionnels et aux usages dépendants et de modifier la grille de spécification à la zone H1 203.1. C'est le 4002A, un avis de motion.
So I give the notice of motion.
Merci. Sur le 4002B, c'est le même dossier, mais l'adoption.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 4003, que soit approuvé le PIA pour l'installation de clôture sur le terrain riverain au 3 4e rue, le lot mentionné le 1 389 897.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 4004, que soit approuvé le PIA pour l'agrandissement du bâtiment unifamilial isolé situé au 4374 rue Hillsdale, lot 1 841 438.
Je propose.
Merci.
I concur.
Merci. 4005. That be accepted the minor exemption of 97 rue de Laurier as the item allowing in H1 8452 zone for a detached residential dwelling a reduced left side setback of 1.90 meters instead of the required minimum of 2 meters. That be refused the minor exemption of 97 rue de Laurier for the items aiming to allow vehicle access aisle width of 9.55 meters instead of the required maximum of 6.5 of the front yard grassed or otherwise landscaped with the plants in the proportion of 42% instead of the required minimum of 50%. Ça me prend proposeur appuyeur 4005.
I propose.
I concur.
Merci. Le 4006, que le Conseil prenne acte du procès verbal de la réunion du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme tenue le 7 décembre 2022.
Je propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 4007, que soit approuvé le procès-verbal du Comité de circulation et sécurité routière du 1er décembre 2022, que l'annexe A du règlement 868 concernant la circulation et la sécurité publique sur le territoire de l'ancienne ville de Pierrefonds soit modifié comme suit, que le règlement 98-596 régissant le stationnement sur les voies publiques de l'ancienne ville de Roxboro soit modifié comme suit. Le numéro 1, c'est la vitesse demande au down sur la rue Boisé. Le numéro 2, c'est vitesse demande au down au 5016 rue Lorrain. Ça me prend un proposeur appuyeur.
I propose.
J'appuie.
Merci. Le 5001, que M. Carl Saint-Onge soit nommé secrétaire d'arrondissement, le poste mentionné de la direction des relations avec les citoyens, des services administratifs et du greffe de l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro. Cette nomination devenant effective à la date de signature des instances, soit le 16 janvier 2023.
Je propose.
Et j'appuie en souhaitant bienvenue.
Monsieur Saint-Onge, bienvenue à l'arrondissement. Et pour ceux et celles, c'est le nouveau secrétaire d'arrondissement pour l'arrondissement de Pierrefonds-Roxboro. Monsieur Saint-Onge a beaucoup d'expérience qui nous amène vraiment à l'arrondissement et au bénéfice de nos citoyens ici à Pierrefonds-Roxboro. Encore, bienvenue. Avant qu'on termine avec le 70-01, on continue avec la période des questions. Madame Cloutier.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Alors, je n'ai pas le nom de la personne, mais je peux pointer, là, c'est la dame juste ici. Oui, je vais vous demander d'aller au podium. Merci. Si vous voulez peut-être nous donner votre prénom et nom.
It's Diana Gampel. So I'm also here for the George Vanier Jean-Briand issue.
Yes.
I'm a little bit different from the other people because I'm at the corner of where it turned into the new one-way street. So well, I have a few little questions, but one of them is that permanent, all those big metal poles that are turning that road into a one-lane road?
Good question.
This is not our property.
That's the yeah.
That did the installation. So we'll see with them how come they make that kind of installation.
Right.
So
Because
it's not supposed to be permanent.
Because it's right at my property. Right now it's winter, there's no kids outside, but like bikes, and there's also the pathway to go behind for the backyards that are right there.
Well, the pathway that they've created there between your home, let's say your backyard, and the parking lot, was created primarily to allow for the youngsters to go access the pool at the far end.
That was the sidewalk.
Yeah, but that was the reason why that area was configured in the way it was. But if there are additional poles that have been placed on their property, we're going to verify. But
It's on the road. It's
we know exactly where they are. We suspect that they are temporary, but we're not on that property. But we'll verify. Mr. Baudouin will verify, because if it's posing a problem now, we'll make sure that if it's not
It's just
necessary,
a
that
lot
they be
of
removed.
metal. It's a really big eyesore.
Yeah.
It's not attractive at all.
Look, and I'll be as honest as I can. I mean, a project of this magnitude, because, we're talking $6-7 billion. I mean, there's going to be a main hub there for public transit, for example, with a train. Certainly, it will undoubtedly create some inconveniences for folks. That we can't deny.
For sure.
We have worked with them very closely, though, through the beginning stages of this project, and we know firsthand that every time we've had issues that residents have raised, they've been very receptive to be able to deal with them, okay? So we will bring this to their attention and try to find some answers from them to make sure. I know that their whole community, aspect of what they do, they're trying to create better links with the neighboring communities, not only in Pierrefonds-Roxboro, but all the way up to Deux Montagnes. And I know this from other mayors that I've spoken to. So they've been very good in trying to provide us at least with solutions, okay, when something is raised. And you raised it tonight, and Mr. Baudouin has noted it, and we're going to follow up with him, but it's a good point.
The other thing is that it's, as the other people have mentioned, it's really confusing from my corner of the street, because basically legally I can't drive home anymore the way I've been driving home. But there's like a one-way street that's like only for my property. And then it turns back into a two-way street. But forget that problem. They removed all the stop signs.
No, it's a one-way property all along.
The signage doesn't say that. It's two ways.
It goes down your street, Jean-Briand, and it continues down, George Vanier, and then it turns past the pool onto Jean-Briand one way. The section that's two-way, if I remember, was from General Brock, not General Brock, George Vanier on your section, but the far end.
If you look at the signage, though, that's where...
As it turns towards the park. That is a two-way stretch, because you can't go one way there, because you have to go back and forth anyways.
But right
it's only
now,
that circle.
I'm talking about coming down from Commercial. So when you're coming down from Commercial, I live right here.
Yeah, you're not allowed to go in. You can only go out from that sector.
Until I can park in the parking lot. I'm just joking, but yeah.
You won't be able to.
So the thing is then it becomes right at the street there. My physical address is on George Vanier, but I park on Jean-Briand. But the street, Jean-Briand is two-way.
Where the stop sign was, in front of your house, that's the one you're talking about that was removed.
Well, it's like here and here.
Yeah.
And then, but right up here, it's back to two ways.
Yeah.
But the problem is to turn to George Vanier, it's a one-way.
Right.
But there's no stop signs. So what's happening is that people are coming down. Like, it's a mess. I look out my kitchen window and I have to close my blinds from the cars they're going to hit.
If I remember, because I have the plan somewhere here, but folks that are coming from Commercial or 11th or 8th.
We're not talking, I'm talking the other way.
I'm just trying to make
Yeah.
that clear for folks that are listening or watching. They can't turn into that parking lot to access Georges Vanier or Jean-Briand. When you're coming from Hornell, certainly you're going to have 2 ways there because people have to get in and out. When they come to Jean-Briand from Hornell, they can turn only right or left because left, they go down towards the park.
But
So
I'm
that
talking
is 2
coming
ways.
down
I know,
from
but
the pool.
I'm just trying to get
Yeah.
the image here. So then when you go down to the end of the street, to the circle, they come back and then they could either go out from Hornell or they go out past your house on Jean-Briand into Commercial because that's a one-way going out, okay?
Yeah.
For you, because you live on that first house, you can't drive towards Jean-Briand, the short part, that first house where you are. And I know where you are.
Yeah.
So you have to drive down Georges Vanier to the end.
No, I can't.
Oh, because you're on George, okay, that's right, because your parking lot is on Jean-Briand. You're right. You have to go out.
The thing is if you can do a drive in the area.
I know it, I've driven it.
No, but to look at the new signages.
Yeah.
The problem is the area that we knew isn't what it is
Well,
anymore.
look, the gentleman brought it up with the signage, and there was additional signage that shouldn't be there, that wasn't removed. The teams have noted that. We're going to go verify that, okay, to make sure.
But what I'm requesting is the stop sign put back in on Jean-Briand towards Commercial.
I understand what you're saying, because
Yeah.
the cars are coming too fast and you can't back up from your driveway. I get it.
And the school bus stops
Yeah,
for
I
the
get it.
kids.
No,
So
I get it. I get
that's
it.
what I'm
No,
requesting
I
is
get
to
it.
put
I get
back.
it. That's a good point, because your civic address, your driveway is on Jean-Briand. I get it.
Yeah. And
Because
it's-
you go in and out from that area, you're going to have, even though they're not going that fast, probably. I
Oh,
mean,
no, they're taking advantage.
Well, look.
We live there, I'm just saying.
Look, every street has particular issues, and we deal with them à la pièce, like we say, unfortunately, because we can't do at large everything. I could put 30-kilometer zone there, and people are still not going to respect it because that's not going to help. We need other traffic curbing measures, okay? And you can see at every council meeting, we've passed resolutions where we've added, I don't know how many speed bumps just last year throughout the territory, which was unseen in our borough forever, and we did it
I don't want to
everywhere.
talk about my rejection of speed bumps the last time I was here.
But I'm going to address that because you bring up a good point. There are many residents that ask us for traffic curbing measures, right? There is an analysis that takes place with a traffic curbing measure that is generated by the laws that govern the rules of the road. We have to analyze for a certain amount of time, period of time, the speed and the amount of vehicles that are going in these areas. More often than not, and I'm being very clear, more often than not, the perception that cars are going 70, 80 kilometers on a residential street, unfortunately, is only a perception. Because the analysis, 90% of the time, shows otherwise. Are there cars that go over the speed limit? No question. But do they go over the speed limit at 85% more than the allotted speed? No. And that's why when we did that analysis back in your day, it didn't merit a traffic curbing measure there. If it's something that needs to be analyzed with our committee, certainly we can note it and we can redo that in light of the fact now that we've changed the orientation of the street. That's a good point. The other thing too, just so you know, we don't know eventually what the configuration will be at the intersection of 11th, Commercial, 8th, and Jean-Briand. That may change entirely. And if it does, may impact, once again, your area. But I want you to leave tonight knowing that from this point on, if there are other changes to be made on that street, then we will make sure that we talk to you. And we address that issue with you all that live in that area. You may not be at the end happy with the answer, but at least we're going to keep you in the loop, okay? Madame Bond, please.
It's just nice.
Please.
For me, it's hard when all the stop signs got removed. So now it's like a speedway and my kid at the bus stop. So there's 2 different schools that have the bus stops right at the corner,
Yeah.
and there's no more stop signs.
Well,
So
the stop sign is just your intersection there.
yes, but
It's the only one that there was.
There were
wasn't another
3
one at
stop
Hornell.
signs before.
At Hornell, there was, as you're entering your sector.
No, I'm on the commercial side.
Right. But you're the only intersection where the stop signs
Have been removed.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so we're going to relook at this, okay, and
So-
see if there's something we can do.
My other question was on
Mrs. Bond, please.
On Jean-Briand, coming up from commercial, there used to be a sidewalk. And then last year, I remember calling the city and making a complaint, and they did do something, but while I'm here, it's a 2-for-1. I've actually also called 311, but they haven't returned my call. But basically, there is a marked off with cones and orange for where there was a made-up sidewalk on one side of the street.
Yeah.
They haven't plowed it at all.
In the parking lot?
No, on the, you guys can help me.
It's the rest of Jean-Briand leading.
But in the parking lot part?
In the area belonging to the REM. as
Right.
you stated before.
Okay, we're going to follow up. Like I said, we have good relations with them, so they've been quite receptive, I have to tell you, with other issues that we've had in the past. So I'm hopeful that they're going to do the same for us. We can't physically go in and do that.
If it helps, I'm more than happy to send some photos to you.
Please do that. Please do that.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to pass by tomorrow and I'm going to look at it
In
myself.
the light,
And,
because.
yeah, I'm going to look at it myself.
But you'll see that basically there was a sidewalk, and then when they came in to do the construction,
Yeah.
they made a fake sidewalk. But basically, again, I have a kid that has to
Not
walk to
accessible.
a school bus
Not
every day,
accessible.
and
Yeah.
it's not safe.
Okay, I will.
So,
I will
we've
go
got
and see it.
problems in our little
I will go
area.
see it. No, you know what? There may be issues, but we also are there to find solutions that make sense. And I will visit, but also I encourage Benoit and Madame Leroux to go as well. That's their section as well. And at the same time, our services will go by and look at that as well.
And just
okay?
those metal poles
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
to me, they're physically on the road. If it was a two-way road, we would have been able to drive where
I know.
those poles are.
I know what you're saying, and
Okay.
we'll follow up. Okay.
And it's
with
only
us.
about 5 houses that it really affects, but I'm one of those 5 houses right
No,
there.
I know, and your
Yeah.
particular issue of having your driveway on Jean-Briand is an issue just in itself.
Just in
So-
itself,
so,
and that's where the no stop signs
You
come
see,
into
when
play.
you look at these things in a plan, right, when we look at a plan, it makes sense, that whole wayfinding through the area.
Yeah.
But then you throw in something like, well, I got to back up from my driveway on Jean-Briand, and all of a sudden you receive the stop sign. Well, we removed the stop sign because it wasn't needed anymore because folks just exit, right? But then how do you consider the folks that are in your situation that unfortunately now are found you don't have a lot of traffic there, because I know we've done the analysis. You don't have a lot. The people that use that area primarily are the folks that live there. We know this, it's factual, okay? There was once upon a time when the train was operating that you had all folks coming from
was a
Gouin, going up
pass-through,
5th,
it
6th,
was,
7th, 8th,
absolutely.
coming in Hornell and all that.
It's
I know
been-
this too.
Yeah.
And that's why we changed the parking regulations in these areas back in the day. That's not the case now since the train has stopped. Nonetheless, there is an issue there for that intersection, and we're going to make sure we address that, okay?
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for waiting.
Alors, il nous reste 2 questions citoyennes. J'appelle Monsieur Éric Lessard.
Monsieur
Bonsoir.
Betts. Bonsoir. J'étais ici au mois de décembre pour la circulation,
Oui.
Gouin et...
Oui.
Alors, est-ce que vous avez l'information à savoir combien
J'ai pas
d'accidents?
l'information. On a soumis le dossier pour analyse, puis j'ai pas le résultat de cette analyse encore.
Ah, mais le nombre d'accidents, c'est ça.
Ah
ça,
non,
c'est ma
j'ai pas,
première question.
malheureusement, j'ai pas eu. On a fait la demande, on n'a pas eu la réponse encore écoutez, avec les fêtes, j'imagine.
Non, c'est correct.
Je peux
C'est-
pas faire des
c'est très
excuses pour
correct.
l'SPVM, là, mais avec les fêtes puis tout ça, on n'a pas eu la réponse d'eux autres, mais on a fait la demande pour savoir combien d'accidents. J'ai aucune idée. Je peux pas vous dire. Peut-être vous connaissez ça plus que moi, mais j'ai pas de
Ben,
détails
j'ai
au niveau
pas-
d'accidents.
J'en ai vu plusieurs, peut-être qu'il aurait pu avoir un accident si les gens n'avaient pas freiné dernière minute.
Puis l'autre chose qu'on voulait, l'autre chose qu'on voulait vous donner comme information, c'est que, puis même moi, j'ai fait la demande personnellement, parce qu'on a le centre Jerry Robertson qui est là. Moi, je me disais, comment ça se fait que les gens n'ont pas le droit de tourner à gauche avec une flèche? Puis là, comme l'autre côté, d'avoir 2 flèches, comme on a près de Beaubois, les gens qui tournent pour Beaubois, avoir peut-être une flèche ou un verre clignotant qui laisse les gens traverser. On a eu la réponse du comité à l'époque. Est-ce que c'est encore en vigueur selon la loi? Je ne peux pas vous dire. Mais on était pour trouver cette information aussi, parce que si on avait ça comme solution, là, on aurait au moins une solution partielle. Parce que la plupart d'accidents, d'après moi, c'est à cause que les gens tournent en même temps que les voies à droite. Je sais.
Absolument.
Je sais.
Je l'ai vu souvent. Moi, je prenais le train puis je marchais chez nous pour aller à la rue Edwards. Vous n'avez aucune idée du nombre de fois que j'ai vu des... Ah non, j'ai une autre question.
Allez.
Les gens de circulation Pierrefonds, ils m'ont répondu, puis merci beaucoup. Là. Il y a plein de gens qui disent qu'ils ne me rappellent jamais, mais moi, finalement, ils me parlaient d'un comité de circulation, puis ils étaient concentrés totalement sur les piétons. Mais les piétons, ça ne faisait pas partie de ma question. Il y a déjà des lumières de piétons. Je ne comprends pas pourquoi ils me parlaient de piétons quand c'était même pas ça ma question. Puis là, l'autre chose, merci de faire le suivi. Là, je vais revenir au mois de février. En tout cas, si vous avez des informations, ça serait le fun que quelqu'un me rappelle.
Si on a avant
oui, c'est sûr. Là. Écoutez, je sais que c'est de l'analyse. Et puis bon, le comité de Pierrefonds de circulation, on dit peut-être en 2024, on va regarder ça avec la REM.
Okay. Ça, c'est pas
c'est très possible aussi. Là. Il va y avoir beaucoup, comme ici, Jean Briand, tout va changer.
L'intersection à Roxboro qu'on a, qui est pas problématique pour le moment, mais ça va causer des problèmes quand le REM va arriver. On a un traverse piéton pour les jeunes qui traversent pour aller à l'école. On a des commerces, on a des gens qui stationnent les deux bords de la rue pour aller accéder au train en même temps. Et on a les piétons qui marchent régulièrement, surtout les personnes âgées qui demeurent dans ce secteur-là, qui utilisent ce tronçon. C'est sûr que ça va changer. Et c'est pour cette raison-là qu'on ne voulait pas nécessairement faire des changements majeurs à cet endroit-là, en sachant que ça va changer au moment donné, soit l'orientation des stationnements, soit les entrées, sorties. On ne sait pas encore. Okay. On est en train de communiquer ça avec le
Je vous laisse entre les mains.
C'est bon.
J'ai fait mon dernier petit point. Au parc des anciens combattants, il y a 2 stationnements.
Oui.
Et puis, celui sur la lande, il n'est jamais déneigé. Là. La seule raison pour qu'il y ait une traque dans le stationnement en ce moment, c'est qu'un des déneigeurs est allé faire une tournée, puis il a fait des... mais à part de ça, il a fait 3 ans à peu près qu'il est fait. Là. Moi, je passe là tous les jours avec mon chien, puis le stationnement, puis c'est le fun parce que les parents de Beaubois vont là pour attendre les enfants, au lieu d'aller dans le cercle d'enfer du Beaubois. Là.
Ils ne sont pas supposés d'aller là.
Ben pourquoi pas? Ils peuvent attendre les enfants 2 minutes.
Parce qu'il n'y a pas beaucoup d'espace. Il n'y a pas beaucoup d'espace à cet endroit-là. En général, on n'enlève pas la neige dans les stationnements de l'arrondissement. En général.
Ben, ils le font au stationnement. L'autre stationnement, il est toujours fait jusqu'à une borne électrique. Lui, il est toujours déneigé.
Là, parce que c'est pour les bateaux, là, les 2 stationnements que vous parlez, là, ça, c'est peut-être pour cette raison-là que ce n'est pas nettoyé. On va vérifier avec...
Si c'est ça la raison, c'est correct.
Non, mais peut-être, moi, je devine, hein. En même temps...
OK, bon, ben c'est beau, c'est correct. Si vous me dites c'est à cause des bateaux et il n'y a pas de bateau l'hiver, c'est parfait, ça fait totalement
d'après moi, c'est ça la réponse, mais on va valider avec M. Baudouin. Oui, c'est ça?
Non, si c'est ça la réponse, c'est très correct. Il n'y a pas besoin d'être d'énergie, il n'y a pas de bateau l'hiver. Merci beaucoup. Puis en passant, 3-1, ils font, je vous avais envoyé un courriel cette semaine, 3-1, ils répondent, puis ils activent parce qu'il y a eu un dégât d'eau justement au parc des anciens combattants. Ils sont venus mettre du sol chez nous. Fait ils ne répondent pas tout le temps.
C'est pas tout le temps.
Quand vous dites qu'il y a un start avec ton ticket, c'est quoi le rappel? Parce que moi, ils ne m'ont jamais rappelé pour dire on est allé ou on a fait ci, on a fait ça. Ils sont supposés de nous rappeler pour dire on a fermé votre billet? Non?
Non, vous savez, le 3-1
il y a trop de monde probablement. Là, mais...
Ça fonctionne des fois, ça ne fonctionne pas des fois. En général, quand le numéro est donné, ça nous donne l'opportunité, nous, de faire le suivi si jamais. Dans un monde parfait, leur responsabilité, à mon avis, c'est de communiquer avec le résident, de dire où on est rendu avec ce dossier-là. Ça, c'est mon opinion.
C'est beau, c'est correct. Mais je voulais juste savoir s'il devait le faire.
Non,
si
on a un suivi d'un résident qui dit, moi, ça fait 1 mois que j'ai appelé, voici mon numéro de dossier. Nous, tout de suite, ou les services, ils font une vérification pour voir où c'est rendu. Là, l'information est automatique. Le problème, c'est qu'ils ne communiquent pas l'information souvent, peut-être
jamais,
peut-être jamais, avec le résident en question. Dans votre cas, c'est le cas. Est-ce que c'est le cas pour tout le monde? Je ne peux pas vous dire. Mais nous, on a cette information-là si on est demandé.
C'est fait, donc s'ils ne communiquent pas que ça a été fait, je le sais, ils l'ont fait. Donc, merci beaucoup.
Allez, bonsoir.
Alors, on va y aller avec Mme Martha Bond.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My first question, it's that draft bylaw that was presented at the council at 6 o'clock here today.
Yep.
And it's a long number, CA 290128-1, amending St. Charles Boulevard Sector Interim Control Bylaw. I will have to mention something about it now that I went to the public meeting, because of course, we don't know what the project is before the meeting, so I couldn't write my question.
So you can pose your question, ma'am.
So the public consultation left residents dissatisfied. Only 3 of us could get to the meeting, and it's not webcast. The project is completely behind closed doors. The council is approving this project before there's any final decision on the PPU, which is the Plan Particular d'Urbanisme, the special planning program for St. Charles Boulevard. So in your own words, can you please explain this draft bylaw, why and how it will be applied?
Thank you, Mrs. Bond, for the question, and I think you were answered at the consultation meeting, but I'll let Monsieur Langevin answer you once again.
As I mentioned earlier.
On record.
On record, as I mentioned earlier, this was a political decision that was taken because we could not refuse an opportunity to have a project that addresses a very big need in our community. And we don't want to lose the opportunity to have a community organization that gives services to a vulnerable segment of our population. We want to have that project, and this is why we're bringing this project, this resolution forward, is to make sure that we don't lose the opportunity to have this type of project here in our community. Now, we cannot disclose the area where it's going to happen. What we can say is that it's part of the Règlement de Contrôle Intérimaire, and that we need to extract that project out of that reglementation, this bylaw, that is presently in the making. Mr. Kennel, if you want to add more than what we've already discussed in the public consultations, which I think we've addressed the question.
We were limited on the number of questions.
Sorry, ma'am?
We were limited on the number of questions that we could ask at the meeting tonight.
Well, Mrs. Bond, I think you were given, from what I understand, 5 questions. And what I would recommend you do, if you need any additional information that we can and are able to give you, I'd request that you write us on it, and we'd be happy to respond, okay?
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Of course, off the top, I find it unlikely that there's only one provider for such a service, and of course, all the rules, I hope, would be followed about bidding on a project and so forth, so that the best project can materialize. Not a project that takes away all of the underground and surface parking required for collective housing H4.
Mrs. Bond, I don't think you have anything to worry about at that level.
Well, I'll address that also in when I write you. And that's a lot of work, by the way. And may I commend everyone coming to this council meeting with your busy lives.
What's your question, ma'am?
But we do have inspectors, and inspectors can look into the traffic issues, and that's what I was mentioning to one of the people.
Thank you.
My second question, a little more straightforward. So the heavy snowfall last January 12th and 13th, this past Thursday and Friday, the sidewalk plow, the Bombardier, did not pass Saturday or Sunday along Gouin Boulevard and Période, near the Pierrefonds Medical Center, and 2 bus stops and 1 bus shelter near where I live. This area has a lot of pedestrian traffic, and people were struggling a bit to walk on the sidewalk because the snow was pushed onto the sidewalk from the street. And then, of course, you add private snow removal from my neighbors. My husband shovels our driveway, and he's very careful not to put it in the street. The city can put the snow into our entrance to our driveway, so that always takes him a lot of extra time to clear that. And I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander, so that's kind of another thing. The city should not plow into people's driveways.
What's the question, Mrs. Bond? I do my own driveway too, by the way.
That's why you're in good shape. Could the Public Works send the crew around another time to make sure that the sidewalk there is cleared on Gouin and other important vital areas? And if I do see this situation again, do I call 311?
Thank you for the question. Number one, you heard me talk at the beginning when I said my comments regarding the snow and how people don't respect sometimes where they put the snow on public property. This is one of those cases that we will make sure tonight, as far as I understand, that we will go by and make sure that that area is taken care of. The snow pickup that we do between the sidewalk and the street, of course, that'll be done throughout the territory. We have, si je me trompe pas, Monsieur Baudouin, over 100 kilometers of areas that we pick up snow, and that is one of the areas that we will be by in the next couple of days. But the immediate intervention on our part is to go and clear that sidewalk to make sure that it is accessible, understanding the necessity of that there, specifically there. So we're on it, and as long as we know of it, you know, this is what I always tell folks. I mean, we have 260, 270 kilometers of streets. We have 110 or so kilometers of sidewalks. You know, we have over 3,000 fire hydrants. We have, you know, you can only imagine the tens of thousands of lights throughout the territory. We and our services can't be everywhere all the time. So we rely on the citizens to be able to give us some of that information like you are tonight. We also talked about an app. It's a Montreal app. You'll see it's the Montreal logo. It's red. Download it on your smart media, okay, wherever you are, if you have the access to it. And the way that works is if ever you see of an issue, particular issue in the borough, with a click of a button, it'll geomap what the issue is, and it'll go directly to our services. That oftentimes is faster than going through the proper channels, because this goes directly to a database. I've done the test. I have done the test many times where I've gone and I've seen a pothole or something in the spring, or I see a light standard that the light isn't working. I'll go in and I'll pop it in. And I'm telling you, maybe not all the time, but in the times that I've done it, within 48 hours, if I'm not mistaken, Monsieur Baudouin, of course, depending on the season as well and the resources that we have, within 48 hours, they've addressed the issue. May not be corrected, but they've addressed it to find out what the problem is. So it's a very practical tool.
I don't have a cell phone, and my husband doesn't want apps on his.
Well, you tell your husband, like my kids tell me, we're 2023. Dad, get in the game. That's what they tell me.
I can't lose my phone. It's plugged into the wall.
So look, thank you for bringing up those points, Mrs. Bond, and please write us on the other issues, and hopefully we can be as clear as we can under the limitations that we have, okay? Ça nous amène à 70-01. Ça me prend un proposeur appuyeur.
I propose.
J'appuie.
So again, I wanted to take the opportunity to wish everybody a happy and healthy and prosperous. They weren't registered, were you? No, I can't take another question, but I can take you informally here after if you'd like to come to the front here, and I can answer you like that. But now the session is closed, and if you don't register in advance, I can't take you as a question in public. I'm sorry? There was no receptionist when we first came in the security. Well, I can ask you. You can ask your question here, sir. I can answer your question. Come to the front if you like. Merci tout le monde. Thank you everyone for attending. Merci.